ties, no 0-0 draws. Go get all three. And the latest that continues to spill in on this beef with the current U.S. men's national team players and kind of some of the ex-guys that are criticizing them. Soft, young generation. You got to deal with it. So we'll get into that on the show. Lot to do on the program. Inching closer and closer to pro football. Lamar Jackson had to leave Ravens practice today with what looked like a wrist injury, but the reports are he's okay. There was a scuffle down in Tennessee featuring Cam Ward. Scott Mitchell joined us yesterday and talked about the complications of this time of year. When you're in camp and all you want to do is hit somebody else, you're sick of hitting your teammates. You just want to get out there and play. So inching closer and closer to the start of pro football. Week 3 of the NFL preseason gets rolling coming up on Thursday, and then week 1, a week from next Thursday, September the 4th, with the Cowboys. Will Micah Parsons be on the roster? Charlotte Jones is the latest Jones to put her foot in her mouth as she made some comments today about the landscape of the Dallas Cowboys, the favorite football team of that guy, Porter Larson. All right. Our first guest will be our friend Sammy Mora from Ute Zone. We'll do some Utah football, some Camp Kyle, some fall football with Sammy on the show. Matt Brown, one of our favorites from the college football newsletter Extra Point, stops by. We'll do the latest on the CFP format. There's an interesting dynamic happening throughout the landscape of college athletics as far as employees for athletic departments that are being squeezed out. You know, a lot of the athletic directors and higher-ranked executives are being paid a lot of money, and the staffers are not, and they're being asked to do more these days, and Matt wrote about that. We're going to get into that with Matt today, and we'll do some college football with him. Good friend of the program, Tony Park, stops by, voice of the Bees. We'll do a little bit of everything with Tony. We'll do some college football, some off-season jazz, and we'll get the latest on the Bees with TP. Then the head coach of Real Salt Lake, even though he was awarded a red card yesterday, Porter, I've rescinded that, and I've made it a soft yellow, so I've allowed Pablo to come on the show today.
There we go.
How are you?
Appealing to the league office,
Indeed.
I assume?
Indeed.
How'd that go?
It was approved, so even though a red card indicates we kicked him off yesterday and kick him off today, soft yellow, we're going to let him on.
For Pablo, I support it. For Pablo, I do support it, so we're good there. Most soccer players, no, they don't get a pass.
How's your Wednesday, Val?
Wednesday's good, halfway through the work week. In 10 days, Spencer Checketts away from football here in the great state of Utah. What should be a really exciting year, I think, in college football in the state of Utah. Bronco Mendenhall, Kyle Whittingham, Kalani Sitake, Morgan Scally, who may join the show later this week, I believe.
Stop it. Don't tease me. We never get Morgan on the show.
In waiting, I guess. Okay. You want to call it, right? It gives a little feel of course, when Kyle was like very much the next head coach, because Urban was clearly going to either take an NFL job or an Ohio State, Florida, USC type gig, right? There's a little bit of that feel with him on the way out, obviously different with Kyle maybe retiring in the next, 1 to 10 years. Who knows with that guy, but excited for it. And 10 days away from kickoff.
Right around the corner, our first guest today will be Sammy Mora from Ute Zone to give us the latest on the Utah football situation as far as training camp goes, maybe some positional battles. We did find out yesterday that Isaac Wilson is your QB2. Most of the positional battles seem to be relatively settled, but we'll see what Sammy has to say about that today. But before we bring on Sammy on a Wednesday afternoon, courtesy of our good friends and your good friends too at Prize Picks, it's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
All right, first things first with Prize Picks. If you have not taken advantage of the deal they give you as a result of them being a client on the show and you being a listener, I say this all the time, go get their free money. You should always do that, okay? Now, behave yourself, okay? Moderation in all things, kids. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700, and they're going to give you $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even have to win that $5 lineup. They're just giving you $50. Promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup on Prize Picks. You can run your game. Now, you should do it this week if you haven't done it yet, because they're essentially giving you two, I would call them easy wins. Prize Picks calls them max discounts. Okay, max discount number 1, Avery Johnson, quarterback for K-State. He just has to throw for more than 0.5 yards. He will do that. Max discount number 2, Dak Prescott has to throw for 0.5 yards. My guess is he will do that too. So if you've not downloaded the app and taken advantage of the free money, you should do that. Then go get their max discounts and essentially win. That's the deal with our good friends at Prize Picks. All right, a couple of things here, and we'll get into this later with Matt Brown. Brian Rolap, friend of the show, he joined us a couple of years back. Brian Rolap is now the CEO of the PGA Tour, okay? And it was announced today as Brian Rolap, who spent 22 years as Roger Goodell's right-hand man. Brian is a sharp, good dude. I've known him for a long time. Great family, really good people. If he wanted to wait it out, he would have been, and maybe still will be, the next commissioner of pro football. He would have been the successor to Roger Goodell. All of the NFL revenue streams generated by TV deals, he is the brain power behind all of those deals. Okay, so the media behemoth that is live TV rights behind pro football is the brainchild of Brian Rolap, who has now taken over the PGA Tour. Okay, so listening to Brian today as he addressed the group at East Lake as the Tour Championship is getting ready to get underway, Scotty Scheffler with the shortest odds to win that tournament since Tiger in 2009. Brian has decided to implement a new committee led by one Tiger Woods, to essentially enact what he's calling, quote, significant change to the Tour's current model, okay? And I'm really excited. We're not going to do a ton of golf here. I will land the plane. Trust me. We are going to bring this back around. But we're going to have Rex Hogard on the show tomorrow from the Golf Channel, so excited to talk to him about this. But on, I would say, 5 or 6 different occasions, Brian used the term innovation, okay, as far as what they're going to try to do to kind of get this certain dynamic with the PGA Tour, just kind of bring it back around to take advantage of the popularity of golf right now. Golf has boomed across the world in a way that the sport's never seen. And Brian is a really interesting guy to lead this endeavor during this landscape-changing interest spike in the game. So a lot of innovation, a lot of change to the tour, a lot of innovation, a lot of change to media partners to try to make the game more accessible to fans and also try to unite the best players in the world because, as we know, Live Golf still has, maybe 4 of the top 7 or 8 players in the world with Jon Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau and, some of the other players they have, Brooks Koepka and such. So I'm excited to see how this plays out. With Tiger in charge, there's some other PGA Tour players are going to be on this committee. Patrick Cantlay, Adam Scott, Maverick McNeely, and Keith Mitchell, and others. But there's a big difference, because I was thinking about this through the prism of the audacity of the Big Ten to even say out loud that they want a new CFP model that includes 28 football teams, 7 auto bids from the Big Ten, 7 auto bids from the SEC, 5 from the Big 12, 5 from the ACC, and then a few for some of the the non-P4 schools, and then a couple of at-large bids. The audacity to even say it out loud, let alone to believe that you think anybody would take you seriously. Like, the main issue with college football right now it's been the main issue for a while. It's the main issue right now, and it will be the main issue until they settle in to a different ecosystem and structure overall. There's nobody in charge. And because there's nobody in charge, the audacity of the Big Ten to even float this model out there. And now I will give the SEC a little bit of credit. They have kind of walked back a little bit, kind of their initial messaging that we're the SEC, so we should get whatever we want. Really, the Big Ten these days are causing all the problems. You can make an argument that the Big Ten is the best football conference in America. I don't think it's the deepest, but maybe at the top it's the best. But the audacity to even float this thing out there, it is beyond stupid. Because what makes college football great, what has always made college football great, is the urgency and the prescient nature of every weekend. Every time your team plays, it feels like it's life or death. Because you suffer a loss in conference and suddenly everything shifts. You suffer your first loss of the season. When BYU was independent, as soon as they lost the game, it's like, okay, Idaho, Potato Bowl, Hawaii Bowl, we know your destination. Now you just got to go get 6 wins, even if some of those wins are against like UMass or like East Carolina or that joke of a schedule they had for years. But now that you're in a conference, the urgency week to week, it feels so immediate and it feels so intense that any endeavor that you undertake to undermine that dynamic of your sport will start to drain the interest of it. It will. Now, the problem right now, if you're just a college football consumer, is that the powers that be, even though there's nobody in charge, there certainly are college commissioners, and we know the Big Ten and the SEC and the landscape of college football wield most of the power. They know that they've got you. They know they got their hooks in you. They know that with the combination of simply your joy of watching your favorite football team combined with the new widespread acceptance of putting money on games, that there's almost nothing they can do that will motivate you to turn off your television. And this is a little bit of a spillover effect of pro football, because pro football for years, we've heard a lot of people say, oh, man, this will be the thing that drains interest in the NFL. And you know what? It's never the thing. It's never the thing that leads to people turning off their televisions or stopping going to games, whether it's the head injuries, whether it's the CTE, whether it is, players being suspended for gambling on games they play in. The danger of the sport, the culture of the sport, the wokeness of the sport, whatever it is, leaning into this, that, or whatever. There's never been anything that has transpired in the history of pro football's evolution that has motivated a large enough group of people to turn the TV off that motivates them to change what they're doing. They can do what they've been doing and honestly screw a few things up here or there, and y'all are still going to watch. And they know that, which is why they have the audacity to float out an idea of a 28-team expanded CFP. Baylor would have been playing for the national championship last year if this thing was real. And every year we debate, like, who's the seventh best team in the Big Ten? Who deserves to get in after the top six have been decided? Like, it would do away with conference championship games. It would absolutely kill the prescient, urgent nature of every single Saturday. And this is the thing that if they lean into it, I actually believe some of the interest week to week will wane. There's a difference between innovation and change for change's sake. And college football strikes me as throwing a bunch of darts at a dartboard and hopes one sticks, and then let's roll with that. And Brian Rolapp, the commissioner of the PGA Tour today, I think gave a bit of a masterclass on leadership and what it's like to put things in place intentionally with an organized approach in order to capitalize on this moment that golf has and has had for a few years now with its popularity. Okay, things are good right now in golf. Let's not rest on our laurels. Let's evolve. Let's innovate. Let's improve. While college football on the other side has this built-in advantage of so many fans just loving it no matter what, and they don't seem to give a rip about that. All they want to do is change for change's sake. All right, week 3 of Camp Kyle up on the hill, rolling along. One more week of camp next week, then it's time for a game. We are 10 days away from Utah UCLA. We'll bring in Sammy Mora from Ute Zone coming up on the other side as our first guest on a Wednesday show will join us. So don't go anywhere. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. Bring in Sammy Mora, our friend from Ute Zone. All right, Sammy, how do you pronounce the artist name? I honestly don't know.
It's Chapel Roan.
Nice, Porter.
There we go. See,
I'm
not hip. I'm not in. I like that song, though.
Bro, I'm old enough to be really an older brother, but if we stretch it and get weird, I'm old enough to be your father.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Sammy, how are you? Happy Wednesday.
I'm good. How are you, Spence?
I'm good. Thank you for the time. So let's start with the announcement that came down yesterday that Isaac Wilson is officially QB2. He'll be backing up Devin Dampier. And I suppose, Sammy, the blessing in disguise with Cam's his inability to stay healthy last year is Utah football as a backup quarterback with a good amount of Big 12 experience, which, of course, is a good thing. What's your reaction to the news?
Well, I mean, you have Kyle say that Isaac is that backup quarterback, but then Jason Beck yesterday kind of slightly contradicted him by saying that he sees it as a 2A and a 2B versus a 2 and a 3. So and he was talking about Bird Ficklin specifically. Like, he said that Bird can get out there and get the job done if they needed, but, it's kind of interesting to hear Kyle say that Isaac is 2, and then you hear Jason say that it's a 2A, 2B type of situation. But like you said, it to a certain extent, it's kind of a blessing in disguise, knowing that Isaac does have all that experience coming into the season. And I know, there's a lot of hesitation about him and his play and stuff, especially how last season went down. But the way that I see it is, I think that everyone in this quarterback room, with the exception of Devin, came into this spring with a clean slate. They were all learning the offense at the same time. It wasn't like someone had been in the program for a little bit longer than another one, so they had the edge up. But, Isaac, Bird were both on the same page, same playing field. And, this battle went on from the start of spring ball until literally Friday when the scrimmage ended. That's a long time for these two to be going neck and neck and back and forth. But I think it proves that, Isaac has made the strides that he needs to do to be more consistent as a quarterback. Kyle said that his in-head clock is going off a lot faster, so you can tell that the game is starting to slow down for him. I think, most people hope that you only see Isaac in garbage time, in a couple of games this year, but I think having a backup quarterback who has the experience is, it's a positive. But, this isn't the same offense that he ran last year. Like, I always joke that Andy Ludwig's offense, to a certain extent, you needed like 3 PhDs, a master's, and like a bunch of other degrees to be able to do a check down in the offense, just because of how chaotic and how intense it was. And this offense is a very plug-and-play, user-friendly type system from what we've heard. So, it's going to be interesting to see how Isaac, has adapted to it, how he's grown in it and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I think, it's a blessing in disguise. I know most Utah fans and I think everyone, media included, hope that, you don't see any of the backups for an extended period of time this season. But if, God forbid, something were to happen, it gives me at least a little bit of comfort knowing that, there is some experience behind Devin.
Tell me what you've learned about Bird, because to your point, it is kind of funny to hear Kyle emphatically announce the backup and Coach Beck be like, wait, hold on a second. And I wonder how much of the messaging is it's just such a weird thing now. And obviously the transfer portal is not open, but so many players, if they're not happy with their lot, decide to withdraw and maybe go elsewhere. So I don't know how much of that messaging is to, let Bird know, like, no, we still like you. But in the instance, I mean, Sammy, as you know, the past few years, it hasn't just been QB1, QB2. I mean, hell, we've seen 4 and 5 quarterbacks at times. So if we do see Bird this year, and we hope that we only see Devin, to your point, what have you learned about him? What kind of quarterback is Bird Ficklin?
Well, Bird is Beck even said that Bird does things a lot similarly, a lot the same way that Devin does things. Bird, it's like the fun fact that I have about Bird is he's a lefty, so they kind of have to shift a few things here and there because of the left-handed quarterback. But other than that, like he's a big guy. He's up to 200 pounds now. He's very, very, very mobile. Like that was one of the things that I think was when I watched his high school tape, late in the cycle when Utah started pushing really hard for him down the stretch. He's a fast guy. He's very shifty. He's hard to bring down, and I can see a lot of the same qualities that Devin Dampier has in Bird Ficklin. I mean, he's still young, and you're gonna have to see how he adapts to playing in a live snap and stuff like that. But from just a film standpoint and just watching his high school film and watching the little bit we got to watch in the spring, Bird plays very similarly to Devin. He's very mobile. He's elusive. Like, there were times that, like, when you go back and watch high school film, and even, like, you know, I think there was a moment during the spring game where it looks like he's dead in the water. Like, the defense is going to get to him, and he is somehow able to get out of there and turn it into a positive play. Upside-wise, I like where Bird is at. You know, maybe it's for the best that he sits for a year, gets his feet wet, gets his feet underneath him, and the game starts to slow down because, you know, if Devin has a massive season this year, you know, Utah could have a wide-open quarterback spot heading into next season. And, you know, we might have this whole battle all over again between Bird and Isaac, depending on if someone elects to transfer or not. But there's a lot. If you haven't went and watched Bird's highlight reel from high school, I encourage everyone to. It is a very fun highlight reel to watch.
How is that wide receiver room shaken out? I know I asked you this last week, and I'll ask you this probably up until we actually see the games and see what they look like. Coach Witt said they've landed, I think he said 7 or 8, and the reason that number is applicable is that's how many you travel with. And we'll see. I mean, when asked about it, Devin has good things to say. The wide receivers were made available last week. They all said the things you would expect them to say in fall camp. But any thoughts on who wide receiver 1 is, wide receiver 2 is, how that room is kind of shaping out as of now?
So I honestly, I said this to you last week, but I still think Tobias Merriweather is going to be wide receiver 1. I mean, it's kind of hard to say who's going to be where on a depth chart, considering Kyle said we're not getting depth charts anymore, which I know, like, there's people that are like, well, we need them. But I'm like, honestly, past game 1, nothing really ever changed on a Utah depth chart unless someone had a season-ending injury. So you just kind of had to, like, base it off of what you're seeing like during warm-ups and stuff. But I will say that Tobias, I think, is wide receiver 1. We've heard a lot of great things about him coming out of camp, and you know, he's a big guy, big playmaker, and I think that he could be like a very dynamic pass catcher for this Utah offense. I still am very bullish on Larry Simmons at that wide receiver 2 position. Just, you know, another guy, big guy. He can make big downfield plays, a big playmaker, threat guy. Very good at making contested catches, too. So I'm still high on him. And then, but the slot receiver position is one that I, over the last few weeks, have kind of went back and forth with. You know, at the beginning of fall, I honestly thought it was going to be Ryan Davis, and then I didn't know who was going to be at the 2. But now, I honestly, if there was a depth chart, which I think it would be Ryan Davis or Creed Whittemore now. Just, you know, we've heard good things about both of them coming out of fall camp, but, you know, Creed really, really, really came on the last few weeks, and I think that he's firmly worked his way into that rotation, and he might even, you know, at some point this season, he could possibly overtake RD depending on how his production is going and stuff like that. But that slot spot has kind of evolved for me over the last few weeks.
So you sent out a tweet, Sammy, and I followed you last week when you joined the show, and you're a great follow. I'll encourage people to follow Sammy at @S_Mora247. That got quite a lot of attention, and you were the first person I saw tweet this. I later listened to the sound, as Devin Dampier said that he sometimes has up to 8 seconds in the pocket with the Utah offensive line, the big boys blocking up front. And it got quite a lot of attention. It looked like some BYU fans decided they wanted to chime in, which, you know, it's always kind of an interesting dynamic that way. But look, it is the positional group. Like ESPN did their top 100 players in college football today. Spencer is at 7 in the entire country at any position. You know, and I was thinking about this the other day. I was just kind of doing some prep for the show. We never talk about Michael Mokafisi. He has 33 starts under his belt, and all the attention's on like Spencer and Caleb, and Jaron's a captain. So tell me about your thoughts with that dynamic, and certainly going up against Utah's defense, projected to be one of the best in the Big 12. Do you really feel like the O-line has that type of performance in them?
I honestly do. Like, you know, this is, like you said, there's a lot of experience on this line. You know, Spencer and Caleb are getting most of the preseason praise and stuff, but you got to remember Tanoa Togiai also. He graded out as one of PFF's top guards last season. Like, he is also a high-level player. So, you know, it's not just the tackles that are good at what they do. Those 3 interior guys are also really well, and it's it's good that you bring up Moko because, people seem to forget. People seem to just use that last season as the reason why, maybe he's not playing the best and stuff. But he got hurt last season. He didn't play majority of the season. So, but before that, I mean, I can think of times his freshman and his sophomore year where he was making some really big plays that made everyone really excited for his future. And so, those 33 starts, those are going to be really important. And I think, all 5 of these guys have played quite a lot of football together, and they know each other. They know how they're going to react. They know what's going on. So I think that that's great. And, that tweet did go on mute as soon as I saw that it was making waves. I just went on to my notifications. I just hit mute. But the thing is like, I don't know if that 8 seconds. People are saying that that's indicative of the defensive line. I don't think so because we're also hearing that the defensive line is still making a lot of big time plays. Those two things can happen and they can coexist in the same universe without one being negative and one being positive. And so, yes, the offensive line could be giving Devin 8 seconds, but that's on maybe one play. The next play, the defensive line could get back there in 2, So it just kind of depends on the situation and what's going on. But I don't think those two things, one can exist without the other one being negative, I think is how I'll put that.
Yeah, well said. I wonder, you're in a generation where it's not your fault, but we raised you guys with cell phones. They were your babysitters. They were your friends. You probably had a phone when you were young. I didn't have my first phone until I was in college. And so the internet wasn't a thing when I was in college. So let's be clear about that. But when it comes to the online dynamic of your job, is it uncomfortable for you? Or, I mean, anyone in our space, Sammy, has to develop leathery skin. And I think for some older people, it probably takes some time because I was not raised with social media like you were. Is that an uncomfortable part of your job? Or is it just something that you can kind of roll with because you're used to it?
Well, to be fair, I was one of the last kids in my school to get a phone. My parents didn't get me a phone until I think I was in 5th or 6th grade. And I was I graduated high school in 2017, just to put that into perspective. So I was one of the last kids in my grade to get a phone. But when I first got into this, it was hard because the more followers you get, the more eyes you get, and the more attention you get. And sometimes it does get to be a lot at times. But I have a great support system around me that makes sure that they're okay, well, maybe let's put the phone down for a little bit and go watch a movie or go outside and hit some golf balls in the backyard or something. And so I always, I'm very good. I have my notifications off on Twitter so I don't get constantly blown up with things. But, it takes time to get used to. But I'm at the point now where, it's just kind of like water off a duck's back to a certain extent.
Good, because the internet is where cowards go to feel brave, and certain BYU fans are a certain kind of coward, and they want to be a certain kind of brave. So don't let it get you down, Sammy. You're doing a good job. I've been asking all of my guests the following question. I will ask you this as well. What does success look like against UCLA? On that plane home from the Rose Bowl, what sort of dynamic result? Obviously a win, but beyond that, what does success look like for Coach Witt and the Utes week 1 at the Rose Bowl?
Well, I think, like you said, the win is probably the biggest thing. And I think, getting out on a 1-0 start is going to be massive for this team. But I think, offensive success. At this point, everyone's going to, UCLA is basing their game plan off of what Beck did at New Mexico and what Beck possibly did at Syracuse. So right now, nobody knows what to expect of this Utah offense. So Utah has the ability to catch UCLA off guard with this offense and, just shock them and push them back on their heels. This defense is going to be this defense. They're going to do what they do. And I think that, the offense, if the offense can come out and put up good numbers, I don't want to put a number range on it so that everyone's like, well, Sammy, you said this many yardage is going to happen and stuff. But, I think you want to see a good amount, I don't even know what yardage to say on this one because, it's about consistency with some of these guys too. But I think offensive performance needs to be strong. And I think, keeping the ball safe, whether it's Devin, whether it's the pass catchers, whether it's the running backs. I think that's what the big thing is going to be for this game because Utah has the opportunity to, have a massive game and put the nation on watch. Be like, hey, this is what this new offense has the ability to do. So everyone just watch out type of thing. So I think offensive success is going to be the biggest thing that I probably, look at it from. The defense, I don't have concerns about. I think more than anything, I think everyone's just ready to see this offense because there's been a lot of talk about it. So I would just say offensive success.
What sort of balance, or maybe I'll even say lack thereof, because there is a part of me that believes this is going to be a very run-heavy attack, and I'm only basing that off of the personnel that we feel, more or less confident in. And maybe this wide receiver group will blow us all away. And maybe Devin is better with his arm than he was a year ago at New Mexico. I don't know. I certainly leave space for the possibilities of things manifesting that I don't know about. I'm no expert at all, but it does feel like with the O-line being what it is and two backs they like a lot and a quarterback that can really run, it feels like we could be in for a little bit of a rush-heavy system, which, or maybe intermediate passes, but maybe it's more explosive than I'm expecting. But as far as just generally speaking, the balance between the run game and the throw game, what are you expecting, Sammy?
Well, I think, this, like you said, this offense is, I think, going to be rooted in a run-first option and a run-first mentality. I've said, I think, sometimes I say it's going to be 50-50. Sometimes I say it's going to be 60-40 in terms of run to pass. But I do think, Utah's going to take their chances. They're going to, Devin's a good quarterback. Devin knows how to get it done through the air. I think they're gonna do some damage through the air. I mean, Dampier even this week said that the area that he thinks is going to thrive the most is the run game. He's like, that offensive line is making up these massive holes. And if the offense is making these massive holes and leading to these big run plays, that's just going to open up the pass game. You got to keep teams honest. And you got to keep these defenses on their toes. And I think that, having a quarterback like Devin who can run and who can throw is going to be a benefit this year. And, the pass catchers are going to be great. I know Wayshawn and Nakari are great in pass pro, which is another added benefit for this offense. And so, at the end of the day, I think it's just going to come down to the pass catchers, because if the pass catchers aren't doing what they need to do, then you're going to start seeing this offense move to more of a run primary system with occasional throws. But Beck said that, they don't know right now. Like, in practice, it's one thing, but when the lights are on, it's a different thing. Like, he again referenced that New Mexico team last year where he thought heading into the season last year that he had like 6 or 7 pass catchers that he could rely upon. And then they all started struggling, but the running backs were really thriving. And so they turned into a run-first offense. So it's just going to evolve. I think that, we're going to see how this offense maybe, the team we see week 1 might not be the same offense we see the last week of the season. And it's just going to depend on who is performing at the high level and who's earning Beck's trust.
Have you landed on where you think Utah exists in this Big 12 ecosystem? I'm telling you, whether it's a podcast or an article or, college football media members or experts who I trust, and this isn't just the Big 12. And look, I've always been of the opinion, Sammy, that this is the sport that is the hardest to predict year in and year out. And that's before every roster had the changeover and the turnover it does now during the offseason. I mean, every team has at least, 30, 40 new players. Some teams have more. Utah State has 80. So it feels wide open, both the race for the CFP, the race for just college football's elite, and in the Big 12. I feel like most people believe Utah is still a Tier 1 Big 12 team, including Vegas. But just generally speaking, where do you think Utah exists in this Big 12 ecosystem?
I honestly, this conference is so hard to read and predict, like you said, and it's just kind of, it's interesting to see. I mean, I've been asked so many times to do a preseason ranking, and at this point, I just split it up into tiers. I have contenders, middle of the pack, and bottom of the pack. I see Utah being in that contenders top third of the conference. Arizona State's up there, Baylor, Iowa State, Kansas State, Texas Tech. Those are all those teams that I see in the top half of the conference, or the top third, I should say, actually. And then BYU, Cincinnati, Colorado, Kansas, TCU in the middle pack, and then the bottom would be, Arizona, UCF, Colorado, West Virginia. I know I probably forgot somebody because there are 16 teams, but, I think Utah does, if Utah can stay healthy, I very strongly believe that they can go toe-to-toe with every team in this conference. You have Texas Tech at home, which is an added benefit. You have Kansas State at home, added benefit. You have Arizona State at home. So that's all nice, and that's dandy, and that's good. You have that home field advantage. Baylor on the road, BYU on the road, those are going to be tough environments to play in. But Utah, if they stay healthy and do what they need to do, I really think this team could go toe-to-toe with anybody.
All right, before I set you loose, what are you willing to say about where you believe Utah will be prior to their trip to Provo? So it's the opener at UCLA at the Rose Bowl. It's a cakewalk against Cal Poly at home. It's a road trip to Laramie against a Wyoming team they should handle. Then home versus Tech, Morgantown, West Virginia. Then home Arizona State, bye week mixed in there. So after those 6 games, prior to the trip to Provo, where do you believe Utah football will be?
Oh God, that's hard because I could see losses to Texas Tech and Arizona State, but I could also see Utah pulling off wins against both of them. So I could see Utah maybe going 6-0, but I could also see 5-1. I think that's a safe bet for me. I mean, worst case scenario is 6-2. I think, or not 6-2, 4-2. Don't do math on the air, kids. But I think that worst case scenario 4-2, best case scenario 6-0. Realistically, 5-1 probably.
Fair enough. All right, Sammy, where can people go find your work?
You can find me on Twitter at @S_Mora247. And you can come join us over at UTZone, one of the best communities for Utah fans on the internet. We're running a 50% off sale currently for the first year of your subscription. We have a VIP podcast that comes out twice a week. So yeah, come over and join us at UTZone.
Thank you, Sammy. Have a great week, and we'll catch up soon.
Okay, thanks, Spence.
All right, our friend Sammy Moore from UTZone, as she referenced, at S_Mora247, and then UTZone.com for all the latest on the University of Utah. All right, before we catch a break, I want to tell you about my friends at Utah Elite Services. Do yourself a favor and don't procrastinate, and wait to take care of your asphalt or fix that concrete that's been cracking and chipping away. The fall and winter will be hitting us very soon, quicker than we want to admit. That's why you need to call Corey over at Utah Elite Services. His team can take care of asphalt crack sealing, patching, and hole repair, coating, striping, asphalt overlays, and complete tear out and replacement of your concrete. Don't let the concrete outside of your home, condo, or even business be a sore thumb. Get it fixed with Utah Elite Services. Give Utah Elite Services a call for a no-cost, no-obligation estimate at 801-821-8670. 801-821-8670. That's Utah Elite Services at 801-821-8670. All right, 1 hour down, 3 hours to go. Coming up on the other side, our buddy Matt Brown from Extra Points will join us. Tony Parks, Pablo Mastroeni later on. Busy show on a Wednesday. You're halfway through that work week, and you are one day closer to the weekend. Don't go anywhere. Keep it right here on ESPN 700, 92 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network. All right, we're making a little bit of a shift on the show today. Matt Brown, who writes the college football newsletter Extra Points, will join us, and I hope he does. I have a list of like 10 questions. If you're a fan of the show, first of all, thank you. Hello, how are you? Second of all, Matt stops by all the time, and you hear me say this often. It really is one of the best college football newsletters out there. It has been a nice North Star as we all navigate the changes to the sport, so we're going to bring him on in a moment. But apparently his personal assistant answered his cell phone. Porter, is that what's happened?
Yeah, his assistant or his what I believe to be like not a toddler daughter, but not far off. She's very young. She answered his phone, and I could tell it was a young gal. I said, "Hey, could you put your father on the phone? Could you put Matt on?" And she emphatically told me no and hung up. So that was a first as a radio producer. We're waiting on one Matt Brown. I've seen his Twitter before get hijacked by his daughter, so I'm not totally surprised. But yeah, that's a first for me as a producer.
Yeah, Matt has this funny bit on his Twitter page where occasionally he lets his daughter tweet, and she's talking about like PB&Js and like Disney movies.
That might be going on now, and she is not taking phone calls apparently.
And this only reinforces your belief that all kids suck, right? Because you're not a fan of kids.
I mean, it is the first time ever on this show that I've had a child, I believe, and she is ruining this segment. So
I wonder if Matt would let us interview his daughter.
Probably for a minute.
We should do a segment where I interview toddlers, where we just have random 6-year-olds on the show.
I mean, that's pretty much sports radio.
They do say there's this old TV show, I think it's called Kids Say the Darndest Things.
Yes. That was funny.
Like I was with my brother and sister-in-law and their family in Carmel, Indiana over the weekend. They have 6 kids, and they have twins that are 3 years old. And their little daughter, Helen, I could just listen to her talk all day. Like it's nonsensical, but it's hilarious. And they're just so happy. What do we do to children to knock the happiness out of them? That's what I want to know.
You want to do this today?
Well, we got an open segment, so why don't we just talk about how we can solve the
world's problems?
The societal conditioning of children that suddenly removes them of all joy.
You want us to talk about the socioeconomic trends that cause despair and
I'm telling you,
poverty.
I know. There's not a high chance you're ever going to be a father. Is that fair to say?
I would say it's a lower chance.
Okay,
we'll see.
But for parents out there, and I am a father. I have one, and I have one child. You just turned 24. Everyone can relate to the following. There's just something that happens when they hit a certain age where you're like, what happened to, my son's a very well-adjusted, Connor. He's a good kid. He's a sweet kid. But something happens where you're like, wait, what happened to the joy and the wonder?
The innocence.
Yes. Like I can remember when Connor was like 6, we went fishing and caught a fish. And I'm a catch and release guy. But I couldn't get the hook out of his mouth in time and he died.
Oh, no.
Or she, I don't know. Or they, them. I'd rather the fish's, current
Don't
status.
assume fish gender.
Yeah, that's true. I need to be better about that. You're right. So whatever the sex of the fish, whatever. The fish died, okay? The fish died, and Connor started crying. And I was like, that is the sweetest thing. And I just wanted to be like, I hope he holds on to this pure, kind, soft-hearted nature his entire life. And something happens, and any parent can relate, where you just, one day, it's like, what happened? What did I do? Is this my fault? Is it society's fault? Like, why aren't you full of wonder and joy? I don't know, man. I don't know. So, yes, we should have a segment where I just interview toddlers who bring joy and wonder and awe on the program. And whimsy. I mean, I'm a big fan of whimsy.
I don't hate the idea. Get their sports takes, maybe.
All right. If you are a parent of an interesting toddler, get a hold of us, and we'll have the toddler on the show. So, do you want to punt to 3:30 for Matt?
Maybe. At this point, we're at the mercy of his personal assistant. I regret to inform you.
Okay.
We do have practice sound from Morgan Scally, from Jason Beck, from the fellas yesterday. But yeah, I think Matt Brown is TBD.
Okay, let's do some sound from practice. We played you Coach Witt and Devin Dampier yesterday. So we're bringing Morgan Scally and Jason Beck here. I do want to tell you about my friends at IFA Country Stores. Like any good coach, it's time to update the game plan for a healthy green lawn. As the hot weather continues this month, make sure you're using IFA Step 3 Summer Lawn Food for healthy turf that stays green in every season. IFA Step 3 Lawn Food, it's the ultimate lawn owner power move at IFA. We'll bring in Matt Brown as soon as his daughter allows us to. We also have Tony Parks and Pablo Mastroeni later on, but if you missed it from yesterday, here's Utah's defensive coordinator, Morgan Scalley.
Morgan, how was camp?
Solid camp. Excited to be hitting some other jerseys. Good physical camp. Still working out some kinks with depth positions, but very happy with the leadership. Very happy with the progress that our guys have made, and we pretty much know where we are right now.
What's that defensive tackle room look like for you right now?
Man, we've made a ton of progress. The freshmen came in and really have proven that they can play year one. So, Carson Kafusi and I would say Pupu Sapalona, listen, Semi and Sione, my guess is all of them see time at some point this season, but I would say that Carson and Pupu have kind of separated themselves from the pack, from the freshman pack. Add to that Leaky, and you got Dallas, and you got, who am I missing? Jonah. So that's a solid group right now. Very happy. Luther Ellis has done a heck of a job with that crew. We should be solid.
Kyle said a few weeks ago that Blake Cotton had finally separated himself on that outside corner spot. What have you seen from him, from the time Falk started until now that led to that separation?
I would just say mastery of the scheme and physicality. He's got the speed to play corner, but to be able to add the physical element, the ability to blitz and leverage the football is a big factor in it. So that's another position group that you're going to probably see quite a bit of rotation there because we feel comfortable with the progress that's been made there. Sharif Shah is a heck of a coach and has gotten those guys to progress quite a bit. Add to that, the progress of Jackson Benny, the ability that Rabbit Evans has to play the nickel. We have some versatility in the safety room. So very excited about the secondary.
What have you seen from Levani Demouni this fall camp as he comes back from his injury a couple years ago?
He's just trying to get more confident in that Achilles, just more confident, and we've done a pretty good job of kind of limiting the reps. He knows the scheme, and it's just about getting to the party healthy, and so the physicality is never an issue with him. He's not a guy that has to be in there and learn how to hit. He knows how to do that. So, but he's feeling much better, and he's getting increased reps.
What does his follow-up? What does his presence mean to the younger guys and everybody else in that room?
Well, you need leadership. You need those guys that are compelling, that will meet extra with the young guys and be able to teach in a way that as coaches we're sitting there saying, yeah, we don't worry about him screwing the deal up, teaching something that we're not teaching. So leadership, you can never outperform the leadership that's provided, particularly from the players.
How does having Smith and Lander taking some offensive snaps affect the
I'm
defense?
so mad. So mad. No, it's just like Shonibaki last year. You deal with it. And it's a good thing. As much as I'll give them crap when when they're on the offensive side of the ball, and I'll talk crap to them, I also let them know how proud I am of them. And listen, if you can wherever you can add value, you can help the team win. More power to you.
Do you expect to have Lander be the green dot this year, or kind of how does that role work for you guys this year?
We'll have multiple green dots, and the biggest thing there is in your substitution packages, just understanding that you got to have one in there at all times. So the good thing is the linebacker position, we have enough depth that the rotation, you're always going to have a guy in there that you trust. So whether it's Trey, whether it's Lander, whether it's Levani, all three of them are great communicators.
What's the most improved position group?
Most improved position group, defensive tackle. Yeah, came into fall camp. That was a big priority, getting that position figured out, and I'm much more confident.
What does the rotation look like at defensive end?
Defense, a lot. So all of them are getting reps. All of them are playing well. It's 5 guys right now, 5 guys that are rotating, and like I said, it allows us, in past situations to get a little bit creative, but very pleased. I do nothing, I got great position coaches. I'm just like, you guys are awesome. Lewis Powell's fantastic with those guys. He's recruited the majority of them, so I just get to call blitzes and have fun. Who are we?
I can't see. What was one of your biggest takeaways from last season that you wanted to address going into this season that maybe you guys adjusted and fixed in fall camp?
Run defense, tackling, and taking the football away. Those are all three that I feel we've done a good job of focusing on and having as a priority, whether we're practicing every day. We've had live sessions almost every time we've been in full pads, and you can't be scared of it. That's football, and we're at a position now. We always said we'll just keep tackling until we feel comfortable with the group, and we're at a point now where we feel comfortable.
And then specifically, what does Tio Johnson add on your defensive side there?
He can play corner, he can play nickel, he can play the free, and now he can play the strong safety. He's much more physical in the box, so versatility would be the biggest thing that he brings to the table.
I don't think I would enjoy trying to tackle Lander Barton.
No?
I don't think that would be fun. And he mentioned Sione. Sione had 5 carries with the Lions the other day during preseason football. I don't think I would enjoy trying to tackle him either.
Yeah. There's a way that, like, linebackers, and Sione, I know he was a defensive back technically, but kind of the way that he played up in the box, the way he played in Morgan's defense, that's basically a linebacker. They bring a certain physicality that you don't want to meet in between the tackles.
I'm trying to think. Did you see the videos floating around of this new 40 and over tackle football league?
I don't know specifically, but yes.
I just saw these videos this morning. I guess there's a league out there for 40 and over gentlemen.
No, there's plenty of these leagues.
Oh, it's a horrible idea.
It's a great idea.
No, it's a horrible idea.
I didn't tell you about the time I played a game for the Zion Lions.
You did not. When was this?
It was college-ish time down in St. George. Okay. There's a little league.
Yeah, but you're a college kid.
But not the rest. The rest of the roster. Let me be clear: what is not college kids?
The Zion Lions.
Yep.
Was this down south?
It was.
Okay.
It was. I think that league is still technically going. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, there's middle-aged men playing. I guess what is dubbed semi-professional football all over this great country, and paying their way to do it. I honor and respect the hustle.
Tom Haberstroh told a story on the show last year of his friend tearing his meniscus, turning around teaching a class.
Yeah.
You're in your 40s. You can tear an Achilles grocery shopping. You shouldn't be playing football.
Hey, maybe you're training. You're staying in shape. Maybe that's the reason.
For what?
Maybe that's
buy a Peloton.
For semi-pro football.
Buy a Peloton.
Go Zion Lions.
Go for a walk. What do you remember during your football days having to tackle one specific person that wasn't very much fun at all?
I mean, I never played high-level football, really. The only time I was playing any sort of respectable opponent was on the basketball circuit, AAU, or right post high school. Football-wise, it was literally just the farm boys I grew up with, because some of those guys. Well, and to be clear, some of them did go on and played good football. A couple of them at Snow College. One of them's the head coach up at the school right now, one Levi Thompson. Just freaks of nature that grew up carrying logs and farming. And that's a different kind of strength than just pushing weight around. I saw him, like Levi was talking about, like put kids in ambulances because they never really seen a man like that. And he's 18, 17 years old. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that I kind of shied away from.
The first time you get hit, like properly hit, you never forget it.
No.
My last year of football, I think, was my sophomore year in high school. And quarterback, end around, ear hold, knocked out. I'll never forget it.
Oh, no.
That's probably why I stopped playing. I'm like, I don't need to do this. I'm just going to play basketball year-round.
I'll go shoot hoops.
But trying to, like, Lander Barton running at you full speed, that would not be a fun person to tackle.
Listen, he is a guy that I watched a little bit in high school when he was on the offensive side. They used him more as a tight end. He wasn't running the ball much. It was more like I'm almost picturing more of a Caleb Lohner situation. Mm-hmm. He is that type of athlete. He really can go up and get him. That is what he was doing at Brighton. They were just like, okay, go stand by the field goal post, and we're going to throw it up in the air. That's when we use Lander Barton. We'll see. I think that's more of what you'll see from him, while maybe Nate Johnson, Smith Snowden, those guys might be more out of the backfield. We'll see.
Caleb had a catch for the Broncos over the weekend. One catch for about 4 yards. Corrine Reed, Jonah Ellis, a lot of Utah on the Broncos. Do we have time to play Jason? All right, we will try to run interference through Matt Brown's daughter to bring him on after a break. But before we catch a break, we let you hear from Morgan. Let's hear from the offensive coordinator, Jason Beck.
Jason, at the beginning of fall camp, you said you wanted to go with your trusted guys, the guys that are going to be consistent. How have you felt like this fall camp has gone for your offense?
Yeah, that's been what we're looking at every day. Who's consistently day in, day out making those plays. And some guys have been emerging that way and doing a nice job. Some guys are close, and we're just trying to keep forcing that issue of what we're asking them to do so that we can count on them in critical situations. So the nice job is, up front, they're setting the tone every day with that consistent work, and for everybody else to follow along with that.
What progress have you seen out of Tobias Merriweather and Larry Simmons?
They were so new when they got here. It was just getting everything going, but they both have played and done stuff in the past where they're comfortable stepping in and playing, right off the bat. So they've done a good job just trying to get them up to speed as fast as possible. They're both doing a nice job coming along and will help us this year.
How have you seen this tight end room maybe evolve as fall camp has started?
Yeah, it's been one of our more consistent rooms with that mix of guys showing up every day, and that includes like JJ. He came in as a young kid, and he's done a really nice job as he's been in there and improving each week. So they've been a strength of the group in terms of their consistency and what they're getting done.
Obviously the starting five gets the headlines, but what sort of progress did you see from the second unit offensive line?
Well, yeah, the starting five, they've done a nice job, and they've kind of been in and out a little bit with some different things, which have given other guys opportunities to get reps. So right now you feel like we have three guys that can come in and play, and we won't have to drastically change too much. So they've done a nice job just kind of establishing themselves and what they can do. And then we're just looking for another guy or two to continue to make that next jump where we feel the same way about them.
Wick gave us an update on the backup quarterbacks, and he mentioned in that there might be some plays for Bird. Is that something you anticipate maybe every game we might see him in specialty situations, or how often might we see?
Well, you never know, but if hopefully, we're healthy, we play well and all of that. But if something were to happen, Bird has done a nice job. He's come in here, he's made plays, and he's done a nice job. So if we needed to, he can fill in and help us play. So I kind of look at it like we have a 2A and a 2B versus a 2 and a 3. So Bird's kind of played himself where he's a 2B, and he can do things at a high level where if we needed to, we can call him and get that done.
What has given you confidence about Isaac that allowed you to name him as the QB2?
He's really coming from spring and just took a big step forward from where he finished the spring, and his just ability to manage everything because of the experiences he's gone through has just kind of put him a step ahead for handling the whole offense and being able to do everything he needed to. But at the same time, Bird does stuff a little more like Dev than Isaac does. So it kind of has that door open where Bird can step in and do some things.
Devin said yesterday that he's working on, not taking chances as much this season. Have you seen that, the smarter decisions this fall so far?
He has. Through fall, we track everything every day with all that, and he's done a really nice job with that. And so we just want that to continue forward through the season.
Who stood out at wide receiver so far?
What's that?
Who stood out at wide receiver so far?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's where, the most consistent is RD. He kind of maybe had a leg up coming from New Mexico with being consistent and having chemistry with them. But then all the other guys have just been, the new guys, Larry and Tobias, Zip's been in that deal, Justin's been in there. So a lot of those guys have just been improving, getting better, and we're just focusing in as we're starting to set that game plan on what can they do to help us win.
You talked a lot about mending your offense towards the strength of your team. Now 4 weeks through fall camp, I guess just what do you feel like your best strengths on the offense are?
Well, it is, mending the offense to that, and specifically kind of each guy. So even in the past game, what can guys do, putting them in those positions to be successful. But we're looking to be a real efficient offense. We'll lean on the guys up front and kind of count on them to lead the way. And then as those skill guys perform in games, then we'll see what direction that takes. I've been a part of this where you think you have a great idea and you hit week 1, and then you really find out where exactly that is. But the playmaking in the game.
Can we stop with the jugs machine? I have a feeling there's somebody listening right now based off a text we just received that can hear the messaging.
Are you pleading at the moment?
Usually I only do it once a year and hope that my pleas actually land with somebody up there that can do something about it. Can we just stop with the jugs machine in the background while we're interviewing the players and coaches? I'm talking to Bill Riley's handler specifically right now, our guy. Can we please stop? That's not too much to ask.
It is the one thing I'm thankful for with the countdown. We're now within 10 days. Because starting next Monday, we get Kyle in a press conference room. We get the interview rooms at campus, right? I'm with you, but the clock is ticking on the jugs machines. They got to go behind closed doors here in the next couple of weeks.
I'm going to start going up there and unplugging them before media availability.
There you go.
Yeah, so maybe that'll do the trick. All right, maybe Matt Brown, if his daughter allows us to talk to him coming up on the other side. We've got some other things that we'll bring your way. We do have Tony Parks on the show today, the latest with RSL with Pablo Mastroeni. But before we catch a break, here's the deal. All right, we have a new partner on the show, Game Day Men's Health. And I'm just going to tell you my experience with their products and encourage you to take advantage of the offer that they're giving you as a result of you being a listener and them being a client. So I'm not bragging here, okay? I've worked very hard to be in the best shape, quite frankly, since I was in college. I'm in the best shape of my life since I was like 18, 19 years old. It is a process, so I'm not going to lead you astray. But by the time Ute football is over, you can be in the best shape of your life. So give yourself 5-6 months of committing to a clean diet, of committing to exercising daily, but also take advantage of what the Huberman bros, our guy in there, calls biohacking, okay? There are things available now that are affordable that have always only been available to either celebrities or athletes or people with a lot of money, and it's changed. The game has changed. Testosterone supplementation is something I've utilized for about 1.5 years now. And then in addition to that, if you need to lose a little bit of weight, they've got semaglutide. They've got all the weight loss things that are going on right now that are really effective. It's why everybody uses them. In addition, they've got me on some peptides, and they're very easy to administer. You can do it yourself. But if you give yourself just about 5-6 months, and utilize Game Day Men's Health as an assistant, I promise you will see results. You got to be consistent. And what they're doing right now is they're giving you a free testosterone test and consultation. I went into their facility a couple of weeks ago. They're really nice people. It's very comfortable. And they walked me through the process that they're going to go through with you, okay? So you go in there, you tell them you heard me talking about it on the show. They're going to give you a free consultation with free blood work and a free testosterone test. And then they're going to walk you through where you're at. They're going to tell you where your testosterone levels are. They're going to tell you what your blood work says, and they're going to cater a program to what you need. And that's the differentiator right there, because a lot of these places treat you just like somebody that comes through and they treat you like everybody else, like a one-size-fits-all type thing. Not at Game Day Men's Health. They take your blood, they walk you through the levels, they check your testosterone level, and then they walk you through what they can do for you to get you back in shape. And also, if you're suffering from a low libido, if you're in your 30s and 40s, you don't have the same juice you used to, if you catch what I'm laying down here, this is a solution, and I think that's all I'll say about that. We'll leave it there. But here's the deal. Right now, in addition to the free consultation and the free testosterone test and taking your blood work and getting you all the levels for free, they're offering you an entire 50% off your first year of a membership there. So you get the free blood work, the free consultation, you'll save a grip of money, and then you get 50% off your first year membership. If you tell them you heard me talking about it on the show, and aside from all that, I can promise you it works because I've done it myself. It's a testimonial that I can actually give to you and tell you that it works really, really well. So get a hold of them at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. It's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. They've got a bunch of locations in Utah. Lehigh, Pleasant Grove, Cottonwood Heights is the one I use, and South Ogden as well. Do yourself a favor. If you're feeling tired, if you want to get back in shape, gain some muscle back, go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today and tell them you heard it on The Drive with Spence Checketts. We'll catch a break. We'll bring in Tony Parks coming up on the other side of a quick break on a Wednesday show right here on ESPN 700. All right, Matt Brown's 5-year-old daughter has given us permission to interview him at 4 o'clock today, little on the other side of 4, so bring in Matt. Pablo Mastroeni, the head coach of RSL, I would imagine he's still a little bit salty as a result of some calls that continue to go the wrong way against RSL. Will join us in about an hour from right now. Get into the 5 o'clock hour of the show, but let's welcome in a very special guest. You know him as the voice of the Bees and longtime radio personality in our market, the great Tony Parks on a Wednesday. TP, happy Wednesday. How we doing?
I'm doing great, man. My toddler is never coming on this show. I become more and more afraid over time if you were to interview her, you know, what she might unveil or the things that she might say. So I'm when I heard about this, I thought, you know what, I better keep my phone close to me at all times when I'm expected to be on the air, because I'm not quite sure what would happen.
I have a feeling, though, Tone, as the young lady grows and evolves, if she's anything like either her mother or her father, she'll be very willing to express anything that she wants to express. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is. She talks with her hands. She loves pasta, and she's a fast talker, too. Very passionate. I don't know where she got all this from, but whatever. She's an Italian for sure, and she shows it all the time. And she's absolutely wonderful. And I couldn't be more in love with the experience of having her in our life.
Love it, buddy. All right, let's start actually with the announcement that was made by BYU that young Bear Bachmeier has won the starting job as a freshman, as a true freshman. He will be the first true freshman in BYU history to start an opener, and he will be the 7th true freshman to see action under center for Brigham Young. He was with Stanford for spring ball, didn't land in Provo until late July. He's been there like 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. I was on TV with our guy Dave Fox last night, and he asked me what this says about the quarterback room. I don't think it's an indictment on the room. I think it's a commentary on the kid, and it's pretty impressive that he was the guy that stepped up and won the job. Now, whenever you do anything for the first time in life or in sports, there's going to be growing pains. And as a result of the quarterback change, BYU's Vegas line has dropped. Their odds to compete in league play have dropped as well. We know that defensively they're going to be stout because they've been since Jay took over down there. But what do you make of young Bear Bachmeier winning the starting job for BYU?
Yeah, I mean, the question's always going to be who gives you the best chance to win going forward. And I think you make the best comment there. You know, everyone wants to say, well, this must be an indictment on, you know, what they really have. This must show a lack of depth or a lack of capability. Well, we don't really know until live bullets get flying. I mean, there was a season where Utah was battling back and forth between, you know, do they go with Travis Wilson or do they go with Kendall Thompson? And oh my goodness. And each of them brought something, but neither of them was complete. Right. And then there was a season where this guy named Brett Elliott was a returning starter and was ready to take over and have a great season for Utah. And he was injured, and everybody thought the season really might be headed down, you know, a downward spiral. And then some guy named Alex Smith came in, took over, and they flourished, and they would go on to win the conference, and the rest is history. So I do understand a true freshman's unique because it's the first time he's going to be out there. He's young. All of that. It is not 1992 anymore, where having a freshman quarterback was just thought of as the worst possible situation you could be in. What I do know is that when it comes to the way that program is going to view it, look, if you're the best thing to help us win, you're going to be out there. And if you're not, you're not. So when there's this, hey, we need patience and baby steps, and let's remember how young he is, sure, if he's the best thing to help you win, then you know what? You're going to have him out there. And if he's not, you're not. So as long as that ends up being the case, and it is clear that that is the case, they'll continue to have the trust of that locker room. And I think Kalani, with his experience, has been tremendous at problem solving and making proper adjustments fairly quickly and being able to turn the page fast and go a different direction if it's not going to work out. What I do know is this: when the live bullets get flying, that's when we discover so much more about these guys, and we're going to find out that much more about him.
And I will say that I believe Kalani and A-Rod have earned the benefit of the doubt. And when it comes to the quarterback battles that we've, like, Zach Wilson didn't automatically have that job. He won the job. Jaron Hall won the job. Mm-hmm. Jake Retzlaff a year ago won the job. Like, they're pretty much 3 for 3 when it comes to picking the right QB. as it pertains to the quarterback battle they found themselves in. So it does feel like those guys know what they're doing. If I'm a BYU fan, I am putting my faith in that staff.
Yeah, I would, because the last time I saw a job given to someone who I thought had massive question marks as to whether or not he was capable and kept getting a longer and longer leash was Jake Heaps. And we all saw how that turned out. And it wasn't good. And then all of a sudden they were facing a situation where they had to turn away from him before they lost the locker room, and they were able to salvage the end of the year. And by the way, Riley Nelson by no means was going to be a Heisman candidate, but they had to make that quick decision and go. So this is one where I definitely put the trust in that staff. I mean, they have a wealth of experience. And I think if you look at the historic track record of how long it took Kyle Whittingham to eventually get exactly what he wants established and to have the culture the way he wants and the decision-making process, everything that goes into it, and the trust of an entire program and fan base. If you look at the way it worked for Kyle, it's actually been similar in the timeline, I think, for Kalani. And now he has really solidified so much of what he wants and how he wants to do things. Never perfect, of course, but I really like the roots that he's built there, the trust that he's built there. And now going forward, when it comes to decisions, anytime Kyle's been wrong about something, redirects quickly, and then you see them start to move back upward. I think it would be the same case here if they, let's say, missed on Bear as your starting line or starting quarterback.
The other piece of news that was announced yesterday, and it's been kind of interesting. We actually just played the sound from Jason Beck, offensive coordinator for the Utes. So Coach Witt comes out and announces that Isaac Wilson is QB2. And then Jason is like, well, it's more like 2A, 2B. I don't know if that messaging is you've got to be careful in this day and age with these athletes. If if a race is decided and a young man is not happy that he's suddenly QB3, maybe he's inclined to find somewhere else to play. So maybe that's making Bird feel better about it. But according to Coach Witt, and he's the head coach, so we'll go with him, Isaac Wilson will be the backup to Devin Dampier. And Tone, I suppose the blessing in disguise a year ago with Cameron's inability to stay healthy is now Utah's backup quarterback is one with 1 year of legitimate Big 12 experience under his belt. What do you make of the announcement that Isaac is the backup?
Well, Isaac being the backup, I don't think is a bad thing at all. The other part about that, as you talk about his experience and all of that, is when you go 2A, 2B, and people are like, wow, that's kind of interesting. I actually think it's important to always keep as many people believing they are one play away, as many as possible. Because if you make them believe, well, you're so far down the depth chart that there's a real unlikelihood that this is going to happen, then not only could you lose them from the program, you could lose them from, let's say, just being as engaged as they need to be day to day. Having some of the investment that you need from a guy that is very unlikely to play. Clearly, there's a 2 and a 3. There is a 2 and a 3. 2A, 2B, I would bet my money that is unlikely. But it's very important that a player believes and understands and perceives they are one play away. You need them to keep competing. Because the moment that you draw up a hierarchy and someone believes they're too far down, or someone believes that the likelihood of getting on the field is too little, one, either you need to be honest with them and tell them that so they leave and you don't want them there. I've seen coaches who have to do that. And now's not the time for that, by the way. You're getting ready for your season. So this is an off-season part that you would do it that way. But the current situation, no. You want guys believing, you know what, you are one play away. And you can contend and compete to win the number 2 spot. And you could still win the number 1 spot. Remember, these jobs are never completely solid. If you are the better option and you start showing things that help us believe, you know what, this is actually going to win us games more than that, then you're going to find yourself on the field and staying on the field. And so it goes back to the Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick thing, which I know was so controversial last decade. But the point was Kaepernick was one play away. And then when Kaepernick got on the field, the 49ers had to realize, wait, this guy right now gives us the best chance to win the Super Bowl. And we are appreciative of what Alex has done. And it's not that we're lacking appreciation for that, but this guy can actually give us a better chance to do it. They played the odds. They were 6 yards away. So you'll get your chance with several reps, and this is going to continue to evolve because you're dealing with young players and some that are unproven still and some that have shown some flashes and still have not been able to show that dynamic high level consistently. Well, this is your chance to continue to show us that each and every day. So 2A, 2B is you need to keep them hungry to believe, each one of them, that they are one play away from being on the field.
I've been asking all of my guests this week as we're 10 days away from the first game for Utah. They're at the Rose Bowl against UCLA. They're a 6.5-point favorite, and I kind of like this opener. I like the opener for BYU in a different way. I think it's good that Bear will have a soft opponent to kind of land. I'm not a huge fan of the FBS, FCS thing. I think at some point it will go away, but with it being the reality of breaking in a freshman quarterback, you might as well do it in Provo against Portland State. And I like that we'll see Devin on the road against a P4 team in one of college football's most historic venues. But when they're on the plane, flying home from L.A., after playing UCLA, what does success look like for you game one for the Utes?
There's a clear indication this offense can work in sync and that it can be reliable over 4 quarters. Like, you can't just come in with a game plan that starts really well and then you're 3-and-outing your way out and hoping your defense can save you and clinging to a 17-14 win. Now, I'm not saying you don't turn down a win. But in order for you to get on that plane, heading back to Salt Lake and feel like, you know what, we got something here that can travel the rest of the season, I want to see an offense that can really work in sync. One thing that I really wish for Ute fans that they could see with that team is a group of receivers that can be very dependable to make high-level plays consistently, to make the tough catch look easy at times, to be able to just go up and win a ball more often when a quarterback needs to just kind of put it in a spot and depend on his guy to go win. Utah has not been able to have that consistently. They've had a guy here or a player who has a particular skill, such as, a guy with speed, or a guy's got good hands but not a great route runner. It always feels like they have one, but they're always missing the other. And I would love to see a core of receivers that they can depend on more and more. Balance, I don't think, is going to necessarily be a must, but you have to be able to have a threat for these things rather than a defense saying, okay, this is all we have to do and we can simplify our plan once we figure out what their original game plan is. I want to see a group that can go out and beat people just simply by being better players. And so last year, like the BYU game always jumps out to me because I love that game plan. I love the way they executed. The physicality was tremendous, and Utah obviously hangs their hat on that. But the second half, it was very early. You're looking at it going, they're not going to score. I mean, they had field position for days, couldn't move. I mean, their defense was giving them opportunity after opportunity, and they couldn't convert even with a field goal. So I don't want to see them backing their way into a win and then coming out of it going, well, a win's a win and 1-0, and you never turn down a victory, and, well, they got some things to clean up. No. I want to see something that shows me with a guy like Devin stepping in, winning a job like that, where Ute fans have been hoping to see a guy who can go out and be a dynamic playmaker like they had, a few years ago when healthy, and then say, okay, now if you take this away, we can be great here. Or if this isn't quite running the way we need, we can always go back to this. Rather than, well, if we're not winning first down with the run, we're in trouble, and trying to find a way to, kind of like 2014, where you're just trying to find a way to eke out a 19-16 victory. That's just not going to give anybody a good feeling going forward about what is a very difficult conference to play in that is so unpredictable.
You referenced the balance, and look, man, you've known me for a long time. I'm just a natural cynic for whatever reason, and I'm usually more skeptical than I am accepting just audacious expectations based off of no data or proof. So I lean into what I feel like I know. I mean, back when like Al Jefferson was here, it's like, oh, we're going to call it the Wheezy, and he's going to be 20-10. I'm like, no, well, he's not very good. This team is not going to be very good. And, when it comes to just Homer broadcast and Homer media, I'm not into it. So I just don't know enough about the weapons on the outside for Utah right now. I don't know enough about the wide receiver room, even if the Zach Williams kid didn't transfer. I mean, he didn't have a ton of experience. Here's what we know, and I'll speak for myself. Here's what I feel like I know. They've got 2 running backs they like. They've got a quarterback that can really rush the football. They've got potentially the best offensive line in the country, not just the Big 12. They have a head coach that just abhors not taking care of the football. Part of me feels like this is a rush-heavy attack, and we are going to see a lot of like 17-14 or 20-14, hopefully, wins for Utah football this year. Nothing wrong with that. But as far as just generally speaking, when it comes to the balance between the run game and the throw game, how do you think that will look for Utah football this year?
If it's heavy run because you're incapable of passing, and then you have to do it like you did, say, in 2014, which I'm not bashing that 2014 team. And that was the first one in the Pac-12 era to kind of emerge and start to win at a higher clip. You cannot save your way to wealth. You must be the one that ends up being a little more aggressive, or is it the threat to be more aggressive? So the 2014 team, it was, I remember coming out of their game against USC thinking, you can't keep winning like this. Like you just can't you can't have a wide receiver drop a backwards pass and stare at the football on the ground. I think it was Orfe who picked it up and ran it back while nobody even knew what was going on and takes it back for a touchdown. Utah, I think, had one good offensive drive. It just happened to be the game-winning drive. And everyone's like, but they're in contention. And it's like, they can't keep winning like this. Like in this league, you're just not going to survive that way. If you want to talk about championship aspiration, if you want to talk about playoff threat, those kinds of things, you won't get there. Then the 2018 team, they lost a couple of conference games early. And when they started playing their best balls, they lost one conference game the rest of the way out. This is the part I'm getting into. They were not balanced. They were like 64% run, something like that. The difference was Huntley was now a much bigger threat to throw effectively. The team showed the capability to throw at a much more efficient level. And so the defenses, even though Utah would say take off with Huntley or go to their run game, because they knew you could, it actually helped open up even more run opportunities. So balance may not need to be there. The balance of what is a realistic threat, those two things must happen. Because if they get to the point that they know that you are not dependable enough in the throw game, that they can absolutely load the box, and that if they play the odds right, you're just not going to be able to put up enough offense. And if they take care of the ball, they'll eventually prevail. I mean, you can still find a way to win some games, as Kyle has been able to do that with field position and just playing great defense and making the timely plays, but you won't get to the elite levels. You'll just have a nice season. You'll have a nice season. So when people look back at some of those Novembers, when they used to say, boy, the Utes, they just can't figure it out in November. Well, that's because they kept trying to survive with a situation where, you know, everybody knew that their ability to throw the football was not a real threat, or it wasn't a consistent threat. Just don't get beat on a massive big play and you're fine, because eventually the quarterback, as I remember, Wilson at one point had I think an interception every 9 attempts through Pac-12 play in one of those years, because they knew at some point a big mistake was going to be made. And so it was worth the risk to just not get beat deep, keep it in front of you, wait for him to make a mistake. You can't be great like that. So that's what I'm curious about with Utah. Even after the first game, do teams now have to legitimately respect your ability to throw the football and hurt you in all different facets of the pass game? And if they throw for, you know, some great number, but we're talking screen passes that took off for a big gain, or somebody got out of their alignment on a wheel route, or, you know, in coverage, and it was a busted coverage and an easy throw, that's not the same thing as, hey, if you don't make sure you cover this guy, it's 6 over the top every time. And if you don't have your eyes in the right place, this guy's going to beat you across the field, get to the sideline, and it's going to be 35 yards. I want to see if Utah actually has that threat, because that, I think, is going to tell me a lot as to whether or not this is going to be a season of improvement or a season of being a true threat to become elite.
All right, Tom, before I set you loose, give me the latest with the Bees. What's going on with our local baseball team?
Yeah, man, at home here tonight, getting ready for the game against the Reno Aces, the Diamondbacks affiliate. And then after this week, we have 2 weeks left in the season in terms of home games, a 12-gamer there in September. Take advantage of the great September weather by coming out to some games. Those nights are going to be beautiful. So if you haven't joined us, make sure to come on out. And if you have join us one last time. Saturday night is a big night. That's this upcoming Saturday, the 23rd. We have Princess Night. So make sure to join us here. Kids get to run around the bases after the game. And do not forget that we'll have the princesses here with a princess-themed drone show, all of that and more. So great theme nights, great fun. And tickets on Sunday are $5. Get them while they last. So hope to see you out here.
Good stuff, Tom. Thanks for the time, buddy. Have a good week. We'll chat soon.
Appreciate you. Thanks, man.
All right, we got 2 hours down. We have 2 hours to go. Coming up on the other side, we will interview Matt Brown. Then we'll bring in Pablo Mastroeni. We'll get to the 5 o'clock hour of the program. And then we will bid you goodnight at 6 on a busy Wednesday drive. So keep it right here on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN Radio Network. All right, 10 days away from Utah football at the Rose Bowl against UCLA. BYU welcomes in Portland State while Utah State welcomes in UTEP. It is week 0, though, so we have college football this weekend. Our next guest, good enough to join us after his personal assistant ran interference earlier, the great Matt Brown from Extra Points. Matt, happy Wednesday. How we doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I appreciate nobody taking my 11-year-old picking up the phone and hanging up personally. Just be glad that she didn't accidentally get put on the air.
Well, actually, Matt, in that vein, I told Porter I was going to ask you if I could interview this young lady because at times she does do a little Twitter takeover, and she seems like a very gregarious, funny young lady. Is that fair to say?
I would say that she is better at social media than I am.
Mm-hmm.
I think every single time she ends up on my computer when I'm off doing something else, people are like, "Why are we paying to read Matt? Let's go hear the 11-year-old's review of K-pop Demon Hunters." And not about who's going to join the A-Sun next week. Like, sure, next time we'll just give her the phone. I'll pay her $1.
Love it, love it. Well, I wanted to have you on for a number of different reasons, but I saw a tweet of yours that caught my attention, caught a lot of people's attention, that I just find to be interesting and not talked about a whole lot. And look, I say this often. I've been in media for about 20 years now, but I've spent my entire career in the realm of sports, whether it was marketing, PR, venue management, and you're really sold kind of a bill of goods that oftentimes turns out to be completely not the thing you thought it was going to be. You are asked to work a ton of late nights. You are asked to work a ton of hours. And honestly, if you're lucky enough to work your way up to a high position, then you're going to make a little bit of money. But up until then, and most people never make it that far, you just don't get paid very well. It's not near as glamorous as what most people believe because we watch the athletes, and now college athletes are being paid. Coaches are being paid millions of dollars. Athletic directors are getting rich. But what are you hearing about the other people in athletic departments that are now asked to even carry a heavier load without really getting additional compensation?
There's going to be a bigger story about this next week, and I think you're right to draw comparisons to the media industry, right? Like I tell people I love my job. I love running Extra Points. This has been the best job that I've had so far, and I'm really fortunate that I think one of the few media people that has a fair amount of autonomy over what I get to do every day and makes a decent living. But it's wild to think that I'm probably like the top 5%, top 10% of earners because the comp is so terrible and there's so few jobs left in this world, even for people who are doing stuff far more important, I think, than what I do. And this is very much what I hear a lot from people that work in college sports, where it was, I would say, bad before COVID, but between COVID and House, and now this gigantic clawback of research money and federal money at larger universities over the last year. It's very rare that I talk to anybody that I would describe as a frontline athletic worker that isn't deeply, deeply burned out and looking to leave. And when I say frontline worker, I'm not talking about Kyle Whittingham, although obviously he works a ton of hours. I'm talking about the people that actually execute the plans that coaches and ADs put into effect. So these are not just the comm staffers that you and I talk to. These are the athletic trainers. These are the people that are trying to sell ticket packages to the Boys and Girls Club of Metropolitan Salt Lake City. These are the people that are making all the social media posts and video and working on development work, and the 150 plus people in a major athletic department that actually make everything go. These guys get paid like crap. And not only do they truly get paid terribly and kind of run through the ringer, but what I've been hearing more and more is I'm not expecting to get paid a lot of money because I work in sports for a living. I do want my boss to be invested in the quality of work that I do. I want to feel like what I do matters, that there's some kind of connection between how well I do my job and success. And if you don't feel that, once you get to kind of mid-career, a lot of people are going, you know what, if I'm an athletic trainer, what am I doing working for the University of Utah when I can go to some private PT clinic, never have to work past 6 o'clock ever again, and make $20,000 more money? There's a real brain drain that I can see happening, not just at the U of U BYU level, but down to the UVUs of the world for the people that are actually making stuff happen. And that is not a positive thing for the industry, just like it's not for media.
I mean, I could give you a list of so many names of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young people who would, contact me. How can I get in sports?
Sure.
And, then you provide an avenue, and then suddenly they try it out, and they just don't last. I do think we romanticize the industry in a way that, to your point, people that have a skill set that could be translated into other endeavors to allow their pocketbook to a little bit differently. They want to work for Utah football because it's cool. They want to work for BYU basketball because it's cool. And then ultimately it doesn't last when they experience the reality of it. Now, that's not everybody. There are plenty of people that have careers in the space and they're, able to kind of find their way into a landing spot that allows them to make a good living. But what sort of extra added weight or pressure or workload have you heard that these staffers have received as a result of things like NIL and the new reality of what college athletics looks like?
Yeah, so I think an example that I hear a lot from both big and small schools is with trainers, right? In a perfect world, you want some kind of emergency trained medical professional trainer that's at every practice. And every game. And you'll have some of those folks, be in the traveling party for every sport as they go across the country. Well, if you are, let's say you're a basketball coach, right? And you're really mad at your team. They went out there and they played some late November game against who the heck cares Division II team, and they stunk up the joint. So the coach calls an emergency practice at 11 o'clock at night. Well, guess what? That means the trainer who might have had plans has to cancel all those, and they have to show up too. And you follow the same structure here as everybody else, but you don't get paid overtime or any of that. And what is increasingly, I am told, the case outside of the Power Four is you have trainers who then are responsible for serving so many different athletes that they don't feel that they can provide a high standard of care, that they're responsible for 4 or 5 different teams. And when you go to the school and say, hey, we got to allocate money to have more trainers, they're like, well, that's fine, but we don't have any money because we got to pay the players, or we spend all this money on new facilities, or the state isn't going to give us any money, or the feds aren't going to give us any money. So this is a place that we decide to cut corners until it's too late. It's very rare, I think, at this point that I can think of schools that have hired comm staff. Most people have laid off or shrunk their staffs while also asking them to produce more social media content, to produce more videos, to produce more features, to be more visible, sometimes even doing sales work. All of this is a lot. And I don't think it's just about money. I think part of the trade that people make when they work in college sports is I'm going to take less salary in exchange for really rewarding work that's around athletes. And also, if I'm working for a university system, I should get pretty good benefits. And I think that kind of trade-offs is increasingly not holding up.
All right, Matt, moving off this one, tell our listeners and me what the SCORE Act is and why we need to know about it. And as it kind of continues to gain some momentum, do you think we're getting closer to this actually becoming a reality?
I think we're getting closer to passing the House. The SCORE Act is actually a bipartisan bill, although it's overwhelmingly supported by congressional House Republicans, to address a lot of the stuff that the NCAA has been asking for years. It would give the NCAA an antitrust exemption to be able to enforce NIL regulations, to be able to enforce the terms of the House settlement, and so they won't get sued. And it stipulates it's are not and shouldn't be designated as employees, regardless of what happens with Johnson v. NCAA or other future court cases. This is something that's really important to Power Four conference leaders, but also folks in Indianapolis at the NCAA, because their concern is without some of these antitrust exemptions, the CSC can't actually smack down anybody's NIL deal that goes above the cap. They won't be able to enforce eligibility rules. And shoot, we just saw today grant an injunction for some West Virginia athletes to be able to play. A lot of athlete rights and economists and many progressives look at this and think this was terrible because all it does is hand over power right back to the NCAA that the Supreme Court kind of stripped in, and that lots of athlete rights activists have said that they shouldn't have in the first place. It would be a step towards kind of consolidating what the college sports world order looked like about a decade ago. I can tell you guys it's very likely to pass the U.S. House. It has widespread Republican support. There's 3 Democrats that are co-signing it. Probably at least one more will vote for it. The question is what happens in the Senate. Because if you want to break a filibuster, you need more than 51 votes. And the Senate Republicans, last time I talked to some staffers there, feel pretty good about getting some Democrat support. They don't think they have 60 votes yet. So we'll have to see.
Started the show off today after listening to Brian Rolap, who's the new the new CEO of the PGA Tour. Brian spent 22 years as Roger Goodell's right-hand man, friend of the program. I've actually interviewed him a couple of times. He's a really, really smart, really sharp guy. And he gave a very eloquent, organized message about this committee that he's starting with 9 people led by Tiger. Tiger Woods is going to be on it. And he used the word innovate about 6 or 7 times. They want to innovate. They want to improve. They want to capitalize on this moment that golf is having that it, quite frankly, has never had. It is so wildly popular that you can barely get a tee time, and they're like 5-6 hour rounds. So everybody's like ratings are up, interest is up. To juxtapose what I perceive to be a very intelligent, organized approach from a new CEO of the PGA Tour, I talked a lot about the difference between innovation and then change for change's sake. And it seems like college athletics, college football specifically, oftentimes just wants to change just to change. And the new proposal that was forwarded by the Big Ten to expand the CFP to 28, to give the Big Ten 7 auto bids, the SEC 7, Big 12 would get 5, the ACC would get 5, then there's some leftover number. It strikes me as so tone deaf because you eliminate conference championship games, and what you do is almost, not entirely, but you really do kill the main thing that I think makes this sport great, and that is the prescient nature of every weekend, the urgent nature of every single conference game. Does this thing have any legs at all? Like, what's your reaction when you saw that this is the thing that the Big Ten decided to actually leak out there?
When I first heard about this, my first thought is always, I personally appreciate when schools and conference offices are willing to leak stuff to reporters, throw things at the wall that they know are not completely baked, and get beaten up a little bit. Because I think that's a way to kind of keep organizations from making really bad decisions. And sometimes after an idea kind of gets dragged through the national discourse circuit, sometimes it comes out better. And that was kind of my read on the Big Ten's proposal. Like, I'll tell you, I talk to people that work at the Big Ten. Like, Big Ten headquarters is 15 minutes from my house. There are people that have Big Ten email addresses are like, no, this is a stupid idea. And what I think this is more about is trying to negotiate in public, to throw something out so outlandish and like, shucks, you're right. 26 is way too many. We should go back to 16, right? And try to, shift the terms of the debate to go get what they really want, which is automatic, more automatic bids. So a team like an Iowa or a Minnesota or Wisconsin that will probably not make the 12-team college football playoff more than once a decade has more of a pathway to that world. I think that overwhelmingly benefits the Big Ten and the SEC. The plan sucks. I agree with you. I haven't seen anybody here in the Midwest in the footprint, really cape for this thing. I don't even think the math pencils out, because conference championship games, even as they are, less important than they were in like 1994, they're enormously valuable, not just broadcast television inventory, but they're really important for conference sponsorships. Like the SEC and the Big Ten make a lot of money selling sponsorships at Lucas Oil Stadium and the Georgia Dome and all these other places for these events. So you have to bet that now, moving inventory that you control to the college football playoff that you don't control will make you financially whole. For a first round game that's going to feature like 2 8 and 5 teams, I very much struggle to see how that works for anybody.
The Salt Lake Tribune did a really interesting piece this week on BYU, and their athletic department budget has doubled since 2020. According to the Tribune, they interviewed a history professor at BYU. He's a leading Latter-day Saint expert at Colorado State. His name is Matt Harris. The Church Commissioner of Education, Clark Gilbert, he's a general authority, sent out, this tweet about, the way that BYU should handle their NIL endeavors and their economic model. And they went in depth, and we've talked about it quite a bit. And ultimately, there's just kind of this conversation going on about whether or not the modern version of Cougar athletics is at odds with what BYU's mission is, according to their own mission, their own model. And it does appear there are a lot of people who work for BYU that aren't necessarily comfortable. And the friction between academia and athletics at institutions is a tale as old as time. This is not a new thing. Yeah. But certainly a lot of people, the pay for play is not landing all that well with certain people down at BYU. The fans love it, of course, because you're getting better talent with the basketball team and the football team. It just continues to be the messaging of, people in the athletic department that doesn't land with me, because they're lying is what they're doing. They have been among the highest bidders to land certain players that have played that are playing for basketball and football. The average Big 12 roster, according to the Tribune, will be about $12 million this year. BYU's is going to cost more than $15 million. They're paying Kevin Young as one of the highest paid basketball coaches in the country. Kalani got a new deal. Rob Wright, $3.5 million from Baylor. Richie Saunders, 7 figures. But there continues to be this clandestine approach to messaging from the athletic department that they just do not want to say the truth out loud, which is you are among the highest bidders in college athletics, which is a benefit to you. You are not breaking the rules. You should be able to say it out loud, as opposed to lean into the BYU experience. And that's why AJ signed, you're paying him $5 million. It's a really interesting piece. And I just wonder what your thoughts are with this dichotomy between one side of what appears to be down at BYU with some administrators not being comfortable with the way they're going about it. Then on the other side, in the athletic department, while they're clearly writing big checks, they just don't want to say that out loud.
Yeah, I'll answer this question with the caveat that I have not had a chance to read this in its entirety. That's one of the stories that I've had open on a tab for a minute here. What I can tell you just from being on this beat here for a minute is that it's pretty rare to find an AD or a senior administrator or a president who's willing to say on the record, yes, we do pay near the top of the market for talent. When I was at the college football national championship game and I was down on the field after Ohio State won, and I ran over and I grabbed Ross Bjork as the confetti is falling down Ohio State's AD, and the only thing that he wanted to talk about in that moment was, hey, Matt, put it in the paper that we didn't have the highest payroll for our football team, which was actually true. They didn't. But that was the narrative that they wanted to spin. I feel like the only school that's been willing to kind of say it with their chest this offseason that, yes, we are opening up our checkbook is Texas Tech. And a big part of that is because the checkbook opening up is not exclusively coming from the university. It's also coming from some boosters. So I think if there's a discomfort with admitting we are paying in the top 20 percentile for X, Y, and Z, I don't think that's unique to BYU. I don't think it's unique to the LDS Church. I think if we called up Scott Woodward at LSU right now or Brian Kelly, he'd probably tell us the same thing, even if it's not true. I also think, knowing what I know about BYU athletics, if there's some discomfort with answering some of those questions, look, you have to say what, if you're going to say something in the paper, you have to say what your bosses want you to say. Even if you know in your heart that yes, our payroll is in the X percent or, for X, Y, and Z. If you know that if you say that in the trib, if Clark Gilbert's going to yell at you, you're not going to do it. I understand. This is legitimately I'm not being dismissive or just saying that pejoratively. That's the gig, and that's true at state schools, and that's true somewhere else. There's a lot of unique tensions in a place like BYU between the athletic department, between academia, between central administration, between high-level donors. And I know that's not unique to just NIL. I don't think this is a state. This is talking out of school or going to get me in trouble or anything. But the athletic department at BYU is going to often has a different view about diversity-related issues than everybody else because they work with the most diverse pool of students. than anybody in the law school or the business school or administration does. Like it's in their interest to maybe have a lighter touch or a more inclusive touch for their students than it might be if all you do is teach American heritage. That's true for fundraising. That's true for lots of other departments. I don't know how it ends. Like what I would say to anybody listening to this, trying my very best to not be biased, is I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to feel about this. From my reading of the scriptures and my understanding of LDS theology, I don't think there is anything that runs counter to church teachings in paying a basketball player $5 million. I understand for cultural reasons or other reasons why that would make somebody uncomfortable. And I think both of those feelings are valid. I share your thought that I wish the people that we talked to would just tell us the full truth instead of hiding behind euphemisms. But that is, I don't think I could throw any proverbial rocks just at Provo for that, because I think that's a higher education challenge, not just a Utah County challenge.
For sure. And, I find interesting, I've got a good friend who's a Notre Dame alum, and he's Catholic, obviously Notre Dame Catholic, the tie there. And we were discussing, he's done well, and he donates heavily to his alma mater, and he loves Notre Dame football, Notre Dame basketball. And the language he uses isn't unlike what I hear from some of my LDS buddies who went to BYU, who also, it's just kind of, it almost feels in a way, Matt, that some of these religious institutions have this built-in advantage when it comes to raising money with NIL. Because if you are a faithful member of a certain religion and you believe that your money will help further the message of the religion you belong to, if you're BYU or Notre Dame, you can send out the message to the masses like, okay, all you faithful believers, our football program being good helps the mission of the church. So open up your checkbook. It's kind of an interesting dynamic that some of these faith-based institutions do kind of have this NIL fundraising advantage, Yeah,
maybe. Like that actually, I think might be something that's worth investigating or worth turning into an actual story. One of the differences, I think, between BYU and that kind of approach and maybe other large religious institutions in Division I is most Protestant and even Catholic institutions are not missionary focused. The spreading the message of Catholicism through Notre Dame football does not have like the same, doesn't mean the same thing, I think, as it does in Mormondom. I don't know if there's as many people that are like, checking the annual stats reports about how many people went to mass or if they opened up a new parish somewhere, maybe the same way that happens in this market. I think what you're describing is something that could be true for Liberty. That it could be true for some other institutions, but there's a lot of faith-based schools. I'm like, I don't know if that helps Jamie raise money at Grand Canyon. I don't think that necessarily works for Baylor. And I don't know if there's anybody other than outside of the immediate Waco area that thinks like Baylor Bears football victories is a positive sign for Baptists to slay the godless Episcopalians in the Protestant wars or something. Like I don't think it necessarily works that way. I think from an outsider who spent a long time in the LDS world, I think that kind of argument has a little bit more emotional heft about the importance of constantly trying to grow and spread this message and to get validation in the national culture. I don't think that's a thing that like Wake Forest fans think about the same way because they already are part of the culture.
Certainly. Yeah. And certainly the examples I utilize are anecdotal. Be interested to hear somebody like you, read somebody like you actually dig into it to see if there's anything there. But look, man,
it'd be a good idea.
Yeah. I'm glad we were able to get past the first layer of the Brown household to get you on the show today. Where can people go get the work, my friend?
You bet. You can find my work, my reporting at extrapointsmb.com. I'm going to break a little bit of news about some FCS conference realignment tomorrow. I've got some reporting that's going to come out in a couple of days about the kind of burnout crisis within college sports. I'm going to be in Raleigh this weekend for the Raleigh Sports Podcast Festival and doing a little bit of reporting there. And then next week, when everyone else is talking about the biggest games in college sports, like I'm excited. I'm going to Texas to go to the first ever game at UTRGV. We're gonna counter program the Ohio State Texas world here. I'm excited for some of the places on off the beaten path. I think Extra Points will be going this season.
Very nice. Well, thank you for the time. Safe travels, and we'll chat soon. Thanks, Matt.
Oh, yeah, you bet. Thanks, friends. Catch you guys later.
The great Matt Brown, college football newsletter is called Extra Points. I utilize it for the show all the time. It is definitely worth your time on his socials. Want to tell you about my friends at Outlaw Distilling, a new partner here on the ESPN Sports Network. Outlaw Distillery is a homegrown, grain-to-glass, nitty-gritty whiskey, vodka, rum, and moonshine distillery right here in Salt Lake County. It's Utah-grown with so much history here of cowboys and outlaws. They've got everything on the spirit spectrum, from their spiced rum all the way down to whiskey, vodka, moonshine. They've got it all. Happy to have them on board. So if you want to take a sip of their spirits, you can find their bottles in local liquor stores or book a tasting. If you tell them I sent you, they'll hook you up with a shot glass as a souvenir. The tour is about an hour and a half. Get your tour and tasting booked at outlawdistillery.com today. They will be our partner for our VIP ESPN 700 tailgate event for Utah football home games all year long. Before we catch a break, let's welcome in Ryan from the Dish Professionals. Give him a call at 801-424-DISH. What's going on, Ryan?
And we'll be at that tailgate here, just a couple weeks.
Yes,
so
sir.
We're almost there. Football is here, and guys, this is the time when you want to make sure your TV's set up right. And I'm going to tell you, this is the best offer. In my 24 years as being a retailer, call right now, get set up. There's a 2-year promotion with a price guarantee. That means the price isn't going to change. If you're a cable or DirecTV customer, guys, I guarantee it's $30 a month minimum, cheaper. But we're going to do better than that. Not only is it going to be save you $30, $60 a month cheaper, but we're going to throw in 3 months of Dish's top package for free, multi-sports pack, which includes the NFL Red Zone free for the entire season. We'll also throw in some movie channels, Showtime and Paramount Plus. And I mentioned Paramount Plus. The Hopper system is completely set up to have all your streaming you can watch. Netflix is like a channel. YouTube is like a channel. So you want to watch the NFL Sunday Ticket, that is it's just literally just click the channel and boom, it's on. You can watch it. Call us today. Take advantage of this. We're going to throw in all of that plus the internet JCWs. Ask about our internet solutions. Guys, half a dozen internet providers, companies that you would not think that we do have them available. I can't mention the names on the radio, but I can tell you if you call up, I'll probably tell you 3 or 4 different companies that are available, give you the prices, which is the best price out there, and tell you what your speeds can be, get you set up with that, and save you $30, $40 a month there. So, guys, we're talking about thousands of dollars for one phone call. It's up to you. You got to pick up the phone and call us now, 424-DISH. 801-424-DISH. That's 424-3474.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Pros. We'll catch a break. Pablo Mastroeni is our guest coming up on the other side of a Wednesday edition of The Drive right here on ESPN 700. I will get back to some of the college football storylines of the day today as we're 10 days away from kick for the Utes, for the Cougars, for the Aggies as well. It's week 0 in the world of college football, so we actually have games this weekend. We also have a match this weekend in Sandy, which is a big one for the lads. RSL welcomes in Minnesota. Our next guest, the head coach of Real Salt Lake on a Wednesday, Pablo Mastroeni. Pobs, happy Wednesday, man. How we doing?
Happy Wednesday, Spence. Doing well, bud.
I hate to start it out this way, but you know where I'm going, and I'm certainly no soccer expert, but my soccer pea-brain says when a player kicks a ball and the defender hits that ball with his hand, typically that is what is known as a handball. I don't know, man. I hate to continue to harp on this the officiating stuff, but it seems like week in and week out, you guys have to feel a little hard done. Is that fair?
Yep. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. And the other way it just affects the group is just momentum, and I think it's like Murphy's Law. Those things that you think might happen end up happening, 2 games in a row where we're just on the wrong side of some calls. But I really like Porter's point. I talked to him before getting on, and he says, they always say everything always evens out at the end. And because you guys have taken so many bad calls this year, it's going to come down to the last games and making a great run to the playoffs. So I really like that positive spin.
Well, he stole that point from Dunny yesterday. Look at you, Porter. At least give Dunny credit if you're going to try to brag to Pablo.
I know.
Okay.
Dunny did bring it up.
Okay,
but,
all right. No.
If it does ring true, it's going to swing real far.
No, all good. Hey, look, we need to give Porter some love because when he makes a good point, it makes him feel good to acknowledge it. So I'm glad you brought it up. Okay, let's move over to the tackle on Emeka. Also, like in real time, because here's the thing, like Emeka's a sturdy kid and he doesn't dive, okay? Mm-hmm. And so when I saw the tackle, I'm like, I need to see a replay. Then I saw the replay. Like that, to me, clearly is reckless and violence. Right. I mean, that felt like a red card to me.
Yep. No, and again, his arms across his neck, chest area, and he's throwing him down. And again, the weird thing is the subjectivity part is we'll see all these replays, and we're gonna, I think, star in the referee preseason video of all the calls that they do differently. Because again, we get feedback from the refs every week, and Kurt's on the call. And I jumped on last week. I didn't jump on this week because again, they're not going to change the results. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is like, what areas can we look into in the game state? And obviously that affects players. When calls don't go your way, obviously you get your initial reaction is frustration. It's like, we're being cheated here. And then you start to lose sight of the game. And so I think it's really important for my part, because that did look like a red card, and we've been red carded for a lot less than that. I mean, Diego was red carded the 2 games before in New York, where the other guy put his arms around Diego's neck, and he still got red carded. So I think for us, it's really thinking about the details and how we can incorporate, Ruan Cruz and Victor Alatunji and really make a strong run here, because we have a great opponent in Minnesota at the weekend who's flying. And it just takes one moment, and like, Porter and Dunny rightly pointed, I think we're going to get a break this weekend, and not a break that's not fair, because I don't want that either. I just want a well-officiated game, and with good momentum, I think we'll make a run here to the playoffs.
I'll ask you one more thing about this, and we can move on and talk about how the team is coming together. But when you do some simple math, because it's always been my issue with officials that I don't think they fully understand what's at stake when they botch a call, because if you miss the playoffs and you're a coach, there's an owner that might say, okay, that's not good enough. Or if you're a player that doesn't have the opportunity to tally a goal that he deserves, then that looks bad on him and his stats. And suddenly you can't, there's a lot at stake when calls are made that directly affect outcomes. It's one thing to miss a call here or there, but when points are taken off the table, the way they've been with you, maybe 6 or 7 matches, you do some simple math, Pobs, and if you get half of those calls, you're in the top 6 or 7. You know what I mean? So how do you reconcile that when you're talking to your players about this dynamic?
Yeah, I think, Spence, that's the hardest thing, because the last thing I want to do is point to something that we have no control over, and so I don't think in this last time I didn't even acknowledge the Charlotte game, because it's futile, and the thing is that I'm left fuming over all these situations, as opposed to giving my energy to to things that we can control and things that we need to look forward on, because, as life happens, that's in the past, and now we have to move forward. And so I think, again, I'm always trying to be an example of how I want the players to behave. And obviously after the game, we're frustrated. We end up conceding on a set piece, something that we're completely in control of, and did that moment 15 minutes earlier affect us. And so the more I bring it up, the more I feel it's okay for the players to feel the way they do. And what I want to do is, like, let's get on with it. It's not fair, but no one cares. It's on us to rectify that. So it's really tough. It's not easy, especially when it's been so many this year. But again, I'm going to go back to Porter's point. It's going to come back to us in droves.
He's going to be so insufferable after this interview. He's doing a fist. He's doing a fist pump in the studio. Okay, all right. No, I like it. We can give our guy a little credit here. All right, you reference Rowan and Victor. We've seen both of them now. Just give us an update on how it's going to integrate them into the system, and then tell us about how training is going. Are they grasping what you're asking them to do as we get familiar with these two new acquisitions?
Yeah, and again, I think this is why there's been talks about changing the season around, and it's so difficult to integrate guys with 8 games left, right? And there's so many variables in our league, and I think I touched on it last week. But as far as our tactics are going to be different than the way either of them played, and then understanding how they what their teammates' qualities are, right, and who you're playing alongside. And but today they were awesome. Both of them were awesome, and you see with every training session that they're getting a really good understanding of both the team tactics and, more importantly, how they can play off each other. They're both really sophisticated thinkers. They, I think in the game, both of them had really good chances to score some goals, and so that's coming from not knowing a whole lot and just playing, from a place of feel, really, because we only had a couple days to prepare to get them both on the field. But I think with every training session, they get sharper. And what I'm also noticing at training is the level of confidence that the players around them have, having those two guys on the field. And so, I think they're today, we had a meeting with Juan Cruz as far as the tactics and the pockets that he can really hurt teams with. And again, both great students of the game, great teammates, wonderful people. And I think that these guys are going to be flying here soon. And so I'm really excited. That's why I'm really excited for the weekend. We're up against a very stingy Minnesota defense. And if we can get both Juan and Victor on the score sheet, we'll be fine.
I always hesitate to say this. I don't want to sound like the ugly American, but I'm always curious about the communication between players who come here and the language barriers. And, I know you have found a way to kind of circumvent some of that stuff, but how's the English, how's the communication with the two new players communicating with the other guys on the roster?
That's a great point. What's been really fascinating is Victor's completely fluent in English, and he's a big time reader. So he easily integrates into the team. And Juan is when we talked to him on the Zoom, he was really hesitant to speak English. But what I've come to realize is his understanding of English is really, really good, and he wants to learn. So he's going to start taking classes. But whenever the coaches talk to Juan, and he obviously speaks and understands Portuguese like his first language, but his ability to listen to the coaches and be able to implement what we're asking is incredible, given the Zoom that we had where he was really hesitant to speak English. So the language piece isn't an issue with either of them. But the one thing, the real positive, and we talk about, is they understand football and they understand space. And so when teammates have the ball, you're always looking at angles and options to be able to play off the other ones, and they've played off each other really well in the last couple of days. So I think we won't have any problems with the language barrier.
So you're without Diego again this weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Gozo, as well as let's see, I think it's Willie, right?
Willie got it.
Okay.
Willie got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So without those three, what's that attack going to look like?
Yeah, so we looked at a couple guys, in those positions, Johnny Russell being one of them, Ari Pule being another. And I think it's a good opportunity for guys like Juan and Victor to go the distance, right? With few games left, we got to make sure that we give them a long enough runway to be fit for these important games. And so, Johnny looked really bright today. He's the guy that can make plays. And I think that's another aspect that we were talking about is within the tactics, you still need to make plays. In other words, like whether it's the really crisp final pass or it's shooting from an angle with a cultured technique to hit the back of the net. And I think that's one of the things that Johnny Russell brings with his experience and his qualities. So, we'll finalize things as we move towards the weekend, but those two guys in place for Gozo. And then obviously Diogo's been doing better. And I think now that he's got players ahead of him, has really changed the way he's played, because oftentimes we're looking at him to always be the guy to score goals this year. And what I've seen with the introduction of these two players has been he's got a great final pass. And maybe what we were missing is just the runners ahead of him to really see Diogo's quality.
So every time I mostly just watch RSL, mostly just watch you, but every time I watch Minnesota just seems like a total pain in the ass. They just seem like such a pain. What is it? Is it personnel? Is it coaching? Is it schematics? Like, why are they so stout defensively? Why are they so hard? They seem like such a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, they're almost contrarian, Spence, in that the modern game of football is primarily how are we going to attack? They flip the script and they say, how are we going to defend? And so where teams place maybe a 70-30 emphasis on scoring goals, they go 70-30, we're going to defend, and we're going to really focus on set pieces, right? So it's the mundane part of the game that they're excellent at. So they're almost comfortable giving you the ball, and then they'll say, we'll catch you on a counterattack, or we'll catch you on a long throw-in, right? So they use these set pieces. If there's a foul in their attacking in their defensive half, they will literally move the whole team forward and have their goalkeeper punt it and use that as a way to keep you pinned in. And so they play for a battle of territory. So it's kind of an old school way of thinking, but they do it to the nines. And that's why they make every game so difficult for any team, because they excel at areas where teams are like, well, that's important, but not as important as the way we want to attack. Well, long throws are important, but defending them, is hit or miss. And you're usually playing not necessarily for the first phase, but like I said, they play for territory and how can they build 2 or 3 shots on goal from a long throw-in, which is not something most teams will even focus on. So what they do is they do very well. Obviously that's coaching and it's really buying from the players. And that's always been my thing. It's very difficult to have a group of guys that are committed to not playing with the ball, because in modern football, from the time you're 5 years old, you're doing goal kick builds, and the love of the game comes with the ball. So they bought into it, and I think it's hard to not buy into it when you've been getting results. So areas that we've been really working on, but throwing a wrinkle in there as to how we can kind of throw something at them that looks a little bit different than they've seen all year from the way they want to attack the game from a set piece perspective. Is hopefully we ask some questions as to whether or not they're going to continue to throw that many numbers forward.
Feels like a bit of a must-win, Pobbs. You've got 8 games left with 5 at home. Have you done the math as far as where you think you need to be to get over the line and make the playoffs?
Yeah, I think, if we take care of home and win the 5 home games, I think it puts us in a position to compete for the playing game. And then, we got to squeak 1 or 2, 1 with a draw. So somewhere around 18 points, I think sees us in a playoff position, and I think 15 points sees us vying for that playing game. So, and you know how I think about that, Spence, is like the only way to get to the future is to go through the present, and so we got to walk the walk and really hit this game head on. So, it must win. I think it's pretty close. It's pretty close to a must win game that we need, and I always look at our training sessions, like what's the vibe like, and these guys were flying today and committed. And, one of the things that, we have a great leadership group. One of the things that, we were going to throw a pretty big tactical tweak into what we were doing this week in lieu of Minnesota. And the leadership group said, Coach, like, listen, we believe in what we're doing. We're literally one set piece away from getting results. 1 PK not being called, from getting results, We believe in what we're doing. We enjoy what we're doing. Let's keep it the same. Let's just keep focusing on ourselves, and let's kill these guys this weekend. So when you got a leadership group like that's all in, and it's reflected in the way the guys have trained this week. I'm really, really optimistic about this weekend.
Transfer window closes tomorrow night. My sources, little birdie, cute little birdie, the cutest little birdie that could ever be, indicates that we might have some news dropping over the next 24 hours. Care to elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, no, I think it's again, I don't know if the documents have been signed, and I'm so hesitant to say anything before because there's nothing you can't go back on that. It's kind of like a referee call, right, Spence? It's like, yeah, sorry, it's but if it goes through, and to be fair, I talked to the player's coach. He's a good friend of mine in Cincinnati, and yeah, a really good defender with again, I think another part too, the things that we talked about on the phone were just an unbelievable human being, a great culture guy, and a huge leader with a ton of experience. And I think if I didn't tell you the position and I said these are the qualities this player has, I think it's so welcome with our group. Again, a young group that's gaining, caught a bit of momentum at the turn. These last couple games haven't gone our way for various reasons, but now we're in the final stretch, and to add a player of his magnitude and his experience and the way he leads is it's like the stars aligning for a great run down the stretch.
Good stuff. Does he have copious amounts of neck tattoos?
All right. Yes, he does.
Okay. Last thing that I'll set you loose on this, and if you need to go, you can be quick on it, but I am genuinely curious, and the nice thing is you're a coach. You don't exist in the media space, but you are a former member of the U.S. men's national team, and there's been this really weird back and forth. There was a documentary for Pulisic where he and I think it was Weah, if I remember correctly, are really going at like Landon and Clint and all, Taylor, Tim Howard, or whoever, like all of the former U.S. men's national team players that are in the media space. Weah called them evil. Pulisic said they're just looking for clicks. And it's like, well, you're literally talking about this during a documentary you want people to watch. I don't know, man. It's part of the job when you get into the space with a microphone in front of your face. I hope you coach forever and you never have to do this. But as somebody that once upon a time represented our country, what do you make of this back and forth between the old guard and the players playing now?
Yeah, I find it really interesting. And I think everyone wants the same thing, Spence. And one side is coming from having played, and another side's coming from playing. But I think at the end of the day, everyone wants the same thing, which is the U.S. team to be successful. And so, I can see through all this stuff. I think there's points on both sides. I'm definitely not taking a side because I've been a player, and the previous generation was like, they are hard on us, but I felt like they were hard on us because they represented the country well, and they wanted us to do the same thing. And so, and I understand from Landon and Tim Howard's is when the amount of pressure that we put on ourselves, irrespective of the pressure that was put on by the fans and Bruce at the time, it was immense. And we held ourselves to a level amongst ourselves, like, hey, if it wasn't good enough in training, it's like, man, we're playing for something huge here. This is a qualifier. This is a World Cup game. There's no BS here. We've got to bring our best. And it was us kind of managing ourselves. And that was a really unique time where we had great players that played in Europe mixed with players in MLS, but there was this unspoken understanding of what it means to represent your country. And so I think I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that gets lost in translation between the camps, but I really believe that both camps want the same thing, and that's for the U.S. team to have a successful outing in 2026.
All right, buddy. Well, you sound good. I was wondering if you're going to be grumpy, but I'm glad you're sounding good. So I will be there this weekend. You are undefeated when I'm in the building, so best of luck. Let's go get 3, Pablo, all right?
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, bud.
All right, Pablo Mascheroni, head coach of RSL. They're back in action this weekend against Minnesota in what has to be characterized as a must-win game, 7:30 on Apple TV. All right, before we catch a break, we'll get into the 5 o'clock hour of the program, do some college football with Matt Brown. We welcome in Ryan from the Dish Bros. Football is here, and I can tell you, if you don't have Dish, you're doing it wrong, because I did it wrong for years. Made the switch. I have everything I want at my disposal. I've saved a grip of money, and then great internet solutions as well. Your job on a Wednesday is to dial 801-424-DISH. What's going on, Ryan?
Your job definitely is to call us and, save some money. Guys, this offer with Dish is phenomenal. This 2-year promotion with a price guarantee, and then Dish throws over the top. It will give you the top package free for the next 3 months. We'll also throw in the multi-sports pack, which includes the NFL Red Zone. These are all must-haves. So you can get all the college games. You can have all access on Sunday. Plus, you're going to have the biggest, fastest DVR out there, 16 tuners, 2 terabytes. It has all the streaming apps being able to built into the system. So you don't have to pick up a different remote and change everything. You can literally go to a channel and Netflix will open or YouTube will open or whatever you want to watch. It's right there. It's simple to use. You get the best TV experience for the best price, plus a couple months free. We're going to throw in dinner at JCW's. And also we can help with the internet. We've literally turned into the internet professionals with over a half a dozen internet service providers at our fingertips in the Salt Lake area. I guarantee I have a solution for you. No matter what, if you think, no, this is the only option, you're wrong. There's a lot more options now, especially in the Salt Lake Valley. Now, if you get up into Wyoming or some other area, you might end up with only 1 or 2 options. But there's so many solutions out there, and prices are cheap. $20 a month. I mean, if you're spending $80, $90 a month for internet and you're not happy with it, call us. Plus, we have some great tricks that we have where when we come and set everything up, all your internet-connected devices will automatically connect to the new internet, and so you don't have to go through the headache of resetting everything. You just pay less money. That's what you want to do. Pay less money, get the best experience for TV and internet. Call us today, 424-DISH. It's 801-424-DISH. That's 424-3474.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Pros. Before we catch break, want to let you know that our good friends at Beer Bar, best home in Salt Lake to watch sports. They have all the RSL games. They have all MLS games. They have Apple TV, Utah football, Jazz basketball, college football, NFL, Mammoth hockey, whatever it is. Check out our good friends at Beer Bar. Shout out to my guys Rich and Duncan. Most of the construction downtown in that area is actually settling, so easy to park. The address is 161 East, 200 South. They have redone their menu. They got a bunch of great new food items and, of course, a bunch of beers. And if you're not a drinker, they've got options for you as well. Our friends at Beer Bar, 161 East, 200 South here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. All right, we'll catch a break. We've got 3 hours in the books. We have 1 hour to go. 5 o'clock hour of the program on a Wednesday afternoon comes your way. Coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700. All right, let's get a Drive at 5 time, Wednesday afternoon style, 8 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. It is a scorching hot Utah summer day outside, about 96 degrees, clear and sunny here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah, right outside of our Broadway media studios. And as it is every single day, it is good to have you along for the ride. Spence Checketts behind the mic. That's Porter Larson producing the program. Soccer expert Porter Larson, I guess. We learned that earlier as Pablo Mastroianni stopped by. If you missed my conversation with Pablo, for you RSL fans, expect an announcement over the next 24 hours of another player on his way to play for RSL. And that is all I can say. I can tell you he's a big name. I can tell you he's played in World Cups. I can tell you he's played overseas. I can tell you he's been an MLS All-Star. And he is a big name. Even a guy like me that doesn't know a ton about the sport knows who this player is. So we're hoping to be able to bring that news to you either before we sign off before 6 o'clock tonight or certainly tomorrow during the program. So you should get excited, RSL fans. It's a good move, and I think it's going to help out. By the way, we have some breaking news on the program. The Denver Broncos are trading Devon Vele to the New Orleans Saints for a 4th-round pick in 2026 and a 7th-round pick in 2027. That is a big haul. Whew, goodness. Devon Vele, former Ute, is on his way to the New Orleans Saints. Broncos have a lot of Utes on the roster, but Devon is on his way to the Big Easy. That's a lot to give up for Devon Vele, respectfully. So that news is just coming down. A little trade in the world of professional football involving one of our local players. Speaking of the Utes, we are 10 days away from game day for Utah football as they'll be at the Rose Bowl taking on the UCLA Bruins. We had Sammy Mora hop on the show earlier from Ute Zone, good friend of the show. She did a great job of breaking down the latest with the Utes. Nothing really coming down the pipeline today. Yesterday was the big announcement of Isaac Wilson as your backup quarterback, backing up Devin Dampier. But not a lot going on as far as news pertaining to the Utah football program today. They remain a 6.5-point favorite. The Vegas line against UCLA favors the Utes. So 10 days away from game day for Utah, 10 days away from game day for BYU. Young Bear Bachmeier will make history for Brigham Young. He will become the first true freshman to start the opener. The 7th true freshman all time, I believe, as it pertains to BYU football, to see action under center, but the first to get the start. As BYU will welcome in Portland State to Provo for Bear to get his first experience as a starting quarterback for BYU. Utah State will welcome in UTEP and usher in the Bronco Mendenhall era on the same Saturday. But we do have college football action coming up this weekend. Week 0 gets going on Saturday morning. 10 a.m. Mountain Time will be the kick from Dublin, Ireland. And it's a Big 12 matchup. It's Iowa State and Kansas State, so we'll be watching that. Other Big 12 teams in action this weekend. Kansas welcomes in Fresno State to David Booth Memorial Stadium, a brand new stadium. And I think the up-to-date stadium renovations are complete there. Maybe they're still working on it. Let's see. Stanford will be at Hawaii. I know that's not a Big 12 game, but this is just your slate for Week 0, as you will have college football to watch coming up this weekend. We are high speed ahead to the start of the NFL season. Week 3 of the NFL preseason slate will get going this weekend, and then Week 1 begins on September the 4th. So you might be preparing for some fantasy football drafts, getting ready for some NFL. Lamar Jackson had to leave practice today with what looked like a wrist injury, but they're saying that he's going to be just fine. So there you go. Some NFL news on this Thursday afternoon or Wednesday afternoon, and the preseason will get going Week 3 tomorrow with the Steelers and the Panthers on NFL Network. Then the Patriots and the Giants will be playing on Prime Video. You're going to have a bunch of different streaming options available to watch NFL football this year. And then on Friday, it's the Eagles and the Jets, Falcons and the Cowboys, the Vikings and the Texans, the Bears and the Chiefs. Speaking of the Cowboys, Charlotte Jones was the latest member of the Jones family to put her foot squarely in her mouth today as they continue to discuss the situation involving Micah Parsons. No contract has been agreed upon. Adam Schefter is reporting he believes that Parsons and the Cowboys are headed for a divorce. The Packers apparently made some inroads on a trade offer, but Dallas said no. And every time the ownership group opens their mouth, they put their foot squarely in it. Just talk about how awesome it is to have the attention. They are the Kardashians of the NFL. Like every time the Cowboy ownership, they decide to address the media, they just talk about how cool it is that people pay attention to them. How about you try building a roster that actually wins football games? The Tour Championship at East Lake is going to get going tomorrow. Scotty Scheffler is an overwhelming favorite. He has the shortest odds to win the Tour Championship since Tiger in 2009. Brian Rolap, friend of the program, interviewed Brian a couple years ago. He had his first address to the media earlier today, and I thought it was really, really good. We discussed this a little bit earlier. Brian spent 22 years with the NFL. All of the lucrative NFL television revenue streams are the brainchild of Brian Rolap. He was Roger Goodell's right-hand man. And a lot of people believed, and maybe still believe, that at some point when Roger Goodell decides that he's done doing this, that Brian Rolap will be the commissioner of the NFL. But he, for now, is the first CEO in the history of the PGA Tour. Jay Monahan exits as the commissioner. Brian is brought in as the CEO of the tour. And some really interesting things in his presser today addressing the media. They're creating a 9-person competition committee led by Tiger Woods to implement changes on the tour and capitalize on this moment that golf finds themselves with, a moment that this sport has, quite frankly, never had before. Now, Tiger's rise certainly brought a lot of eyes and attention on the world of golf, but COVID, as a result of people really not being able to leave their house and golf being kind of this outlet for a lot of people because we were outdoors, and you remember back then it was like, hey, wear a mask, stay 5 feet away from each other, whatever the hell those guidelines were. COVID brought this popularity to the sport that continues to evolve and continues to grow. Ratings are up, interest is up, participation is up. And so Brian Rolap, on about 6 or 7 different occasions today, brought up the term innovation. He wants to be innovative. He wants to, preserve the traditions that make the PGA Tour what it is, but also capitalize on this moment and create additional media opportunities and changes to the tour that will allow them to capitalize on the interest that they find themselves in. And I was really impressed listening to Brian speak today. I'm lucky enough to know him. He is a good person. He's a good dude. He comes from an excellent family, and he's very sharp. And I'm excited that a guy like this is in charge of a league and a sport, certainly, that I found myself very interested in. But I juxtaposed it earlier to what I perceive to be a continued failure of college football to enact innovation. There's a difference between innovative and just changing for change's sake. There's a difference between seeing around corners, being forward-thinking, capitalizing on opportunities, and just changing to change. And it feels like that's where we find ourselves with college football all the time. And I utilized the example of the story that came out last week that the Big Ten has proposed. And keep this in mind, there's a December 1st deadline for the powers that be in college football to come to an agreement on what the future of the CFP will be, okay? And if they don't come to an agreement by December 1st, it will remain 12 teams, and the format will remain the same. The latest model by the Big 12, it honestly felt like nobody discussed it. They're like, yeah, this kind of sounds like a good idea. Let's just throw it out there. And I feel like it's been summarily dismissed and kind of clowned, and it should be, to expand the college football playoff to 28 teams. Remember, a few years ago, it was 4 teams. 4. Now it's 12. And the Big Ten with the audacity to expand it to 28, which would do a couple of things. This is not innovative. It's dumb. It's change for change's sake. And if we call it what it really is, it is allowing television executives to put their dirty paws and fingerprints on a sport we all love in a way that's even more evasive than it is right now. 28 playoff teams would eliminate conference championship games. It would put 7 Big Ten teams automatically in, 7 SEC teams automatically in, 5 from the Big 12, 5 from the ACC, and then non-P4, I think there's 2 spots and then 2 at-large bids. Can you imagine the TV show with Reese Davis every week? Hey, who's the 7th best team in the Big Ten? It's beyond dumb, but beyond oversaturation of a product that is so cool to watch. The bigger issue here is there's the danger that you kill the best thing about college football, which is the following. Every weekend is urgent. Every weekend is prescient. Every game counts in a way that it doesn't count in basketball or baseball or soccer. The NFL has a similar feel, But you can lose, 3, 4, 5, 6 NFL games, and you could still win Super Bowls. We've seen wild card teams go on the road and go on crazy runs and win Super Bowls. In conference play for college football, every game is do or die. You lose a conference game, and suddenly it kind of changes your trajectory and what you can do that year. If you implement something as dumb as what the Big Ten is proposing, you kill that prescient nature. You kill the urgency that we all feel every week when Utah or BYU or Utah State or whoever it is playing a conference game and everything feels like it's on the line. It's what makes this sport what it is. It's what differentiates it from everything else. And I'm just tired of this sport knowing that they have us, right? Like if you're a college football consumer, you need to know that they understand they've got you in their back pocket. It's one thing to watch because you went to school at Utah or BYU and that's the community you have and maybe you met your wife there, your friends there, and you want to be part of it. It's another thing with the widespread acceptance of sports betting where so many people are addicted to the dopamine rush and cannot stop themselves from firing up a 16 parlay every Saturday. They know that they have you. They know that they have us in their back pocket, and therefore they're nefarious with their decision-making process, and at some point, it will saturate a game and a sport that we all love. I want to tell you about my friends at Advanced Window Products. This is our guy, Nate Orchard, the mayor of Sac Lake City, and his buddy, Jake Weber. They run this company. They are a local company. They've been around for decades. If you need new windows, do not even think about going anywhere else. They've got their fall football special going on right now where you can save $2,500 when you buy 10 windows or more. They've got great rebates. They have lifetime warranties. The warranties are transferable in the case that you're selling your home to the new homeowner. And the other cool thing about this deal is that if you don't feel like you need new windows right now, but you do anticipate maybe buying or selling a home in the coming weeks or months, if you call today and get on the schedule, you still lock in the savings of $2,500 when you buy 10 windows or more with our good friends at Advanced Window Products. So give them a call today at 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, 801-850-9100, or check them out online at advancedwindowproducts.com. Advanced Window Products, building, installing, and guaranteeing the best windows in Utah. All right, more on this topic coming up on the other side as Matt Brown from Extra Point stops by. Then we say goodnight at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday edition of The Drive. So keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, wrapping it up. Final segment of the show on this Wednesday afternoon. You're halfway through that work week. You are one day closer to the weekend. I want to take some time to say a very special thank you to all of our listeners. We received up-to-date numbers today, and we are in the best spot that we've been in since we started the show. So it's very cool. We just turned 6 last week. It both seems like we just started this yesterday and 30 years ago. I don't know what that means. Time is a mental construct. But we have a lot of new listeners, and we've never had the ratings that we currently have right now. We are stomping our competitor, which is always nice. But ultimately, that is a testament to you. So if you listen to us every day or anytime at all, whether it's on 700 AM, 92.1 FM, our podcast page, or streaming online, a very, very sincere thank you so much. Never take a listener for granted. You guys mean everything to us. So we got the numbers today, and they're really, really good. So thank you for that. Do not get a big head just because Pablo said you had a good point about soccer.
Soccer guy. You're
going to be insufferable the rest of the week because Pablo complimented the point. So take me behind the scenes. When you had him on the phone, what was this salient, excellent point that you made?
Just soccer guy stuff behind the scenes. Stuff that if I were to bring it on air, it wouldn't really translate to the everyday listener when it comes to soccer. I see. Yeah. It's my guy Pablo. We're talking schemes. We're talking, timing, roster, substitutions, the whole my guy Kyle B, KB.
Yep.
Saw him playing tennis the other day. Had a little conversation. Just my U.S. men's national team homies. I like to call them.
What is your preferred formation in the attack? What's your favorite formation to enact when you need to attack and score goals?
Yeah, I like 11 personnel, 12 personnel.
Okay.
I like multiple tight end sets usually.
Can you name one soccer formation?
Diamond.
You're worse than I am.
The triangle.
I'm a fan of a 4-1-2-1-2 myself. That is the diamond formation in the middle, just so you know.
That's what I was going for.
Okay.
I know it's like something like that where you got the one guy that's like your lead forward, really, right?
Sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, I have just been informed that tomorrow at 9 a.m., it is supposed to be official for the RSL player announcement. They are bringing in a really big name. Now, look, when I say really big name, this is a league that recently we've seen my guy Sonny from Tottenham, Thomas Müller from Germany, and obviously Lionel Messi. So it's not on that level, but it's a name you'll be familiar with. It's a defender who's spent some time overseas. He's played in 2 World Cups. He's been an MLS All-Star. So stay tuned for that. That should become official tomorrow. We are 10 days away from game day for the Utes, the Cougars, and the Aggies. And then we have week 0 college football this weekend. You're going to blink, and the NFL will be here week 1, September 4th. And then we are actually not that far away from training camp in pro basketball, too. Now, we're not going to do a lot of that as of now, and hopefully the Jazz give us something fun to talk about this year. My guess is they will not. But we are creeping up on one of the best time of years for sure. So we will say goodnight for a Wednesday. Porter, what comes our way on a Thursday edition of the show?
On a Thursday edition of the show, we'll continue the college football conversation with one Kyle Bonagura of ESPN. We'll talk some PGA Tour Championship with one Rex Hoggard. May catch up with our friend Richard Smitty Smith out at the U.S. Open, and a little birdie, sweet little birdie, tells me we may have a particular RSL maybe newcomer on the show tomorrow.
Okay, so the RSL player announcement will be in the morning, and we hope to interview said player in the afternoon. So that'll be a fun Thursday show. And Porter referenced the U.S. Open is going on right now, too. So a little bit of everything. Join us for a Thursday show. We'll say goodnight and special thank you to Sammy Mora, Matt Brown, Tony Parks, and Pablo Mastroeni for any of the sound you missed from the program today. The good news is that it's up online. You can listen to it whenever you want. You have a few options. Go to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Make sure to download our mobile app and take us on the go. The ESPN 700 app is available for free in the App Store and the Google Play Store. Then finally, for what we do in our space every afternoon for 4 hours, go over to the podcast page. Support us over there. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments. Give us all the stars. It helps. For Porter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great Wednesday evening. We'll talk to you on a jam-packed, busy Thursday edition of the program. And as always, you can find it right here on ESPN 700, 92 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network.